Hey everyone, you're listening to the official podcast of 4playernetwork.com. Check us out at that address for everything you need to know about our community, monthly giveaways, and nightly live streams. You can even support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4player. And last but not least, you can catch the live recordings of these podcasts every single Thursday night on our Twitch channel. We hope to see you there. Enjoy. Welcome to 4Player Podcast, episode 748. It is March 9th, 2023. I'm your host, Nick Henderson. I am joined this evening by Brad Simons.
Hello.
Christopher Guthridge.
Hello.
Coming to us live from space. And Chris Davis is also joining us. Hello, Chris Davis.
Good evening.
I want to welcome everybody to the show. We are going to be doing something a little new, a little different tonight. I have not made a significant change to the kind of like itinerary or the blocking of the segments or whatever to our show in a long time. So I'm trying something a little fresh tonight. So we're going to be doing impressions in the second segment, but we have a lot of stuff packed up in the first segment that I'm eager to get to. But I want to, of course, start the show tonight with housekeeping because there's a few things I want to draw your attention to. One, and we're gonna do our weekly fantasy critic update here in just a moment. But I want to encourage everybody, if you're listening at home, if you don't listen to our show every single week, you may have missed out on our fantasy critic draft that we did. It was our first show of the year. And if you haven't listened to it yet, I encourage you to go check it out because things are getting spicy.
It's getting vicious. It's getting very angry.
It's getting dumb.
It's getting how dare you, Chris? This is fun. This is fun, man.
No,
I'm enjoying...
Earlier this week in our Discord, it became like the 38th parallel between North and South Korea between Nick and Crispy over fucking Suicide Squad.
We'll get there. We'll give them the breakdown here in just a minute. But I want to make sure I plug that. I also want to let everybody know, because there are some people who are probably listening to our show who have also noticed that no, we have not said anything about Hogwarts Legacy on the show. That's probably going to remain that way. But Chris Davis and I might at some point sit down with a community member and record a bonus podcast to talk about it. So anybody who does want to hear us talk about it can go check that out. So I just want to let everybody know that's coming at some point. So keep your eyes peeled for it. And lastly, I don't do this enough, but I want to challenge everybody at home who's listening to the show or maybe watching us live on Twitch. If you haven't, go leave us a review. Go whether you go to iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whatever the fuck it's called, and leave us a review, or you go to Spotify and just rate our show, or any of the other number of podcast services that actually allow reviews. It's kind of surprising to me that like not all of them allow you to leave reviews or whatever, but a lot of them do. And if you haven't done that yet, please go do it. I'm going to keep an eye on that shit, but I don't say it nearly enough. If you like our show, if you want us to keep going, if you want to hear us come back week after week, let us know what you think of the show. Go leave us a review. Go leave us a rating where you can. We'd really appreciate it. And now, officially, I want to talk about the Fantasy Critic. We've been doing this pretty much weekly. I like how when we started this thing, it was going to be like, okay, we'll reconvene in like 6 months and we'll talk about it. But it's been like every week.
It's so funny. So, I got this idea
so
from Easy Allies because they've been doing it for like several years now. And they do their show at the beginning of the year and then they do one like mid-year show.
Right.
It's like, how do they just do one mid-year show? That's crazy.
This is like just the meat of the show of the year. Yeah,
we do need to get a special. We need to do a special at some point where we get Carlos on.
Yeah.
No one's heard Carlos's thoughts because he can't post in the Fantasy Critic channel and he doesn't come on the fucking podcast. He's just pissing in the wind. We don't know what's going on.
I did think it was kind of funny when he was like, "Yeah, I want to participate." And I was like, "Bitch, you have memed yourself into your own channel and you can't leave it. You refuse to leave your own channel, and of course that means you can't participate."
We could just rename his channel to the Fantasy Critic channel and do all our chatting in there.
Could
drive him crazy.
That's actually pretty good.
He could participate. That's the loophole.
What does that mean for all the weirdos that stay in his channel though?
They can continue to be weird, posting haste faces or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, but they might displace into the rest of the server.
Wow,
that is true.
Going after
but you're right. They can, but Carlos can't and that's the important part.
Okay, all right. Let's rein it back in for a second. I want to talk about the fantasy. A lot of stuff has transpired. It's actually been 2 weeks since we did our last show, and for those who are following along, who may not be super familiar with the way this works, every single week we have the opportunity to bid on games if we see something or if there's news that kind of makes us say, "Ooh, I want to take a chance on this game or that game or whatever." So the bids are we use private bidding, which means anybody can bid at any time on a game. Up until Thursday of each week, it's hidden. Like, we don't know what's being bid on. And then on Thursday, it becomes public. We don't know who bid on what or how much they bid on it. But essentially, that means people have until the bidding ends on Saturday to try to outbid somebody else without knowing how much anybody else has bid. So the bids close every Saturday, and there's been basically 2 weeks since we've talked about this. So there's been quite a few pickups, right? I've been actually pretty surprised at the steady stream of bids we've had going. What's up, Brad?
Also, there's been new hidden bids announced this evening, so we can go over those as well.
As of like an hour ago.
Yeah. So real quick update on pickups. So also, I want to, if you haven't, it's in the show notes. I do it every single week now, and I do try to tweet about it a lot. So you can actually follow our Critic League if you want. Although we are being very open about it, talking very openly about it in Discord. We have a dedicated channel for it, so you can pretty much keep track of it there. But if you want to keep track of like the official lead, you can see all of our rundowns, all of our points, all that stuff. Check out the show notes. There's a link in there. So this week, I've picked up 2 games since the last time we talked about it. I picked up Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Hellblade 2. And I know somebody else bid on Hellblade 2. I think it was Brad, right? Brad, you initially had put Hellblade on the board.
I think I bid $1 on both Hellblade and Final Fantasy.
Brad's not legitimately bidding. He's testing the waters.
He's testing the waters.
What does that mean?
No. But here's the thing: that in theory that kind of makes sense, but at the same time, what you have to realize, you can't just bid without having some kind of faith in something. Because right, if you happen to win that bid, you're now stuck with that game. So
I was prepared to take those games.
Right.
I can even give my reasoning.
Why. He wasn't
desperate for them. He just wanted to see if he could get them cheap.
Yeah, but let me kind of do my rant here, especially because you, Chris Davis, bidding Frenzy Man over there, and honestly, I mean, Nolan's kind of playing it a little slow. But here's the thing. I counted. I went on Open Critic.
By the way, for those listening
at home, all the
points. All the points are dictated by Open Critic scores. If it's over 70, you get a point. If it's over 90, you get 2. If it's less than 70, you lose points.
Which is like Metacritic, but they do a score based on like all platforms, I guess. Which is probably why they use Open Critic, a single score based on all platforms. I will say, Chris Davis like, oh my god, you have 6 slots. You have 6 slots. What are you going to do? We're taking all the games.
It is March.
It's not even about March. I searched Open Critic 2022, and they list out all the games in order based on scores. And I counted all the games over 80 and above for the entire year. I counted. It was 181 games. So you're telling me that I'm not going to find like games to bid on, 2 months into the year, 2 months and a week into the year? I'll be fine. This is why I'm bidding $1 on things, because I mean, the truth is Hellblade and Final Fantasy might not come out. The reason I took that risk is because I feel deep down that both of those, no, it's not even if they do, is we have a thing. So here's the way the drops work, right? We have one unconditional kind of drop, excluding counterpicks. And then we have as many drops as we want based on games that we know for a fact won't come out. So if the developer says this game is not coming out this year, that means we're free to drop it. And we could do that to any number of those games as long as they aren't counterpicked. And I did a little research. Jeff Grubb said something about Hellblade, and Final Fantasy does say winter of 2023. And my logic is, well, if they come out, they'll probably review pretty well. And if they don't, there's no way that we get to the end of the year where Microsoft doesn't say that one, probably give a date for Hellblade or say it's coming out like next summer or something. And two,
Right.
especially Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy says it's coming out this winter. They're either one, going to officially delay that game, or two, we're definitely going to have a date by the end of the year, which means those games would then become droppable. So I took the risk, but I'm not trying to spend a ton of money because,
you're right.
at the end of the day, it is an auction when it comes to that Mario platform,
Yeah.
that Mario platformer that comes out in November that we're all going to spend all of our money on, right? I got to save a little money for that. That's been my only strategy. I'm not in a hurry.
I know, you're right. I just want to point out, like, I'm taking a slightly different approach and betting a little bit of money on some of the stuff right now because I'm looking at my list, I'm looking at y'all's list, and I'm realizing I feel really good about my list. I feel really good about my list if it all comes out. Here's the problem.
Yeah,
I think I have the riskiest list right now. There's like, I'd say most of the games on my list, with the exception of Final Fantasy 16, could slip out of the year, which means I'm going to have to probably end up dropping at least one or two of those, at least. So,
but
and
you can't drop the ones that got counterpicked, which, by the way, just to be clear, it can be very confusing because Carlos fucked it up. It wouldn't let us do 2 counterpicks on draft night, even though we made them official on draft night. And we said, all right, go do your second counterpick. Now that the draft is over, just bid $1. That's why we all started with $99 to lock in your second counterpick, the one you chose on draft night. Carlos switched his counterpick. They were both yours, Nick, but he on draft night he counterpicked
Alan Wake. Now he's counterpicking Silent Hill 2 remake.
So, but I can't drop that. No, I know, but we're honoring his draft night pick. So you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, I didn't know. I thought we were
no, because that's bullshit. He can't fucking do that. We all agreed that the draft, we have to go in and counterpick the one we said on draft night, and he said Alan Wake 2, which means his counterpick is Alan Wake 2, which means that's the one you can't drop. Now, if you want to drop Silent Hill, you are free to drop Silent Hill, but you have to go in and you're gonna have to go and manually do it because he fucked it up, which is probably a good time to bring up the thing I wanted to bring up.
Well, can I finish going? Well, I just want to go.
No, you go. I'll mention it at the end.
Because there are quite a few. Nolan picked up one game, which was actually a pretty big surprise. He picked up Have a Nice Death. I haven't heard Nolan say anything about this game.
I was eyeing it.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at that. I was trying to figure out like who bid on this, and I was like, it's Brad.
It's another one of those early access, and I think these are smart pickups, right? Because with indie games, like I was saying before the show, it can be a toss-up. Sometimes a cool looking indie game still ends up with like a 77, right? It happens all the fucking time. But if games have been in early access for a long time, usually you can kind of get a sense of like, okay, people really like this thing, and that game has been in early access and Have a Nice Death, and people like it. Like the user scores are good. It's one of the reasons I picked up like say Ultra Kill, right? Because that's been in early access for a long time. People like it. So.
All right.
Makes sense.
Chris Davis picked up 2 games. He picked up Terra Nil, which I was like, that is a Nolan game all the way. But Chris Davis,
I tried to. That was one of my like $1. I wanted Terra Nil.
Chris Davis sat across from me while he came over to help me sort some stuff out. We went and had lunch. He sat across from me and was sitting here like trying. I think Nolan was bidding on Terra Nil. This motherfucker was the one who did it.
It was me. Which again, I hate that we didn't do secret bidding because everybody gets to look up all these fucking games. You lazy bones who don't know what Terra Nil is get to go look up, all the footage and trailers and previews and go, okay, yeah, this is a good pick. I'm going to bid on this.
Okay, well, next year,
fine, I guess.
Maybe next year we'll try.
That was my advantage. I have no advantage.
Well, perhaps next year we'll try secret bidding, but I don't know. This is kind of fun.
We should just mix up the rules next year, anyways. But Terra Nil.
Chris Davis also
Chris
picked
Davis
up
doesn't
Dead
even
Island.
know what Terra Nil is. He doesn't even know.
Tell me what Terra Nil is.
Tell me what Terra Nil is.
Terra Nil is an environmental restoration game.
No, you said it's a Nolan game because you think it's a city builder, but it's not. It's a puzzle game. Most people don't even know it's a fucking puzzle game. Anyways, continue, Nick. Sorry.
Chris Davis also picked up Dead Island 2, which is
interesting.
It's a choice. It's getting positive.
You saw my rant, in which again, there's no foul play. That was 100% honest. I think that was a crazy fucking pickup. If you look at all the Dead Island games and Dying Light games, none of them have scored above the 70s.
Yeah.
Dying Light 1, Dying Light 2, some of the Dead Island games like Riptide and Escape from
But
Dead
wouldn't-
Island scored
wouldn't
really
that be a-
poor.
I mean, yeah, they're not good games.
Well, okay.
But
I don't know
but-
why you think that's going to
Conversation.
change now.
No. This conversation is not about whether games are good or
But
bad.
Brad-
It's about
No,
how
I
they
know.
feel.
What I'm saying is I don't know. Like the same things that were wrong with those games that got them in the 70s are probably still going to be what's wrong
Yeah.
with.
But
Yeah.
but
Dead
Brad,
Island
you're
2, like-
forgetting. You're both forgetting. Dead Island 2 is developed by the same team that brought us Homefront: The Revolution.
Wow.
Okay, I'm sorry. That was low.
Yeah.
That was no.
Can I
Rude.
provide my justification for this pick since y'all are
Well,
shitting all over me?
No.
Wait, can I
mean,
guess what your
I'm not- we're
justification
not-
is first?
Sure.
I guess my guess is that now that you are like a firm 4th place, you
Wow.
feel emboldened to just do whatever the fuck you want because the only thing that's going to save you is like some
Alright.
really crazy big brain strategies.
All
No.
right, y'all. This is
Shit's
what,
Shit's
See,
getting
we're so
wild.
mean to each
Shut
other.
up.
And it's so wrong.
Our listeners,
Dude.
I'm telling you, this is getting
I
violent.
don't want to hear that from Brad because Brad was like actually being a fucking dick to me yesterday.
No,
and I
no,
didn't
no,
appreciate it.
no.
I didn't
no.
appreciate
That's-
it, Brad.
No. My beef is with Scud. Okay.
Okay, but
Stop
you're
it.
taking it out on me because
Well, you got a
Scud put
fucking
my
cheerleader
name in his
instigator
Discord
behind
handle.
you. He's a little fucking instigator. He's got
Yeah.
a hashtag Team Crispy, and he's just going around saying, "Oh, you know, fucking."
yeah, but it's like
He's just instigating.
it's like having that girlfriend at the bar who's like picking fights for you with like other
Yes.
people, and I'm just standing there like
Yes.
I don't why and like Brad's just like okay and is like punching me in the throat when I'm just trying to like live my life. Like,
What have I said, Crispy? Really, what have I said?
dude, you were
Come on.
kind of you keep harping on this idea that like because I'm not the biggest fan of like the franchises I'm drafting that like I'm not playing the game right or something, which is bullshit.
No.
Dude,
Look,
come on, don't even
look,
act like you were implying that.
no.
Like,
No, you stop it. You picked up Rise. We'll get to it. You picked up Ryza 3. I bet $1 on Ryza 3, and you fucking.
you know what
stole
my
it from
you
me.
know what my mentality yeah, I know you did. And you know what my mentality is that like I don't think I'm gonna keep up with this strategy moving forward, but I'm trying to do like a middleman thing. I'm picking up games that you guys want because I want to make trades with you guys. Except Nick fucking ruined that. Like
Yeah,
Are
I
we gonna
did.
get into this trade business?
Nick doesn't understand like what money is
No.
or like how scarcity works or like why trade would exist between people because he's out of his fucking mind. Like
All right, we'll get to that in a second. Can I finish this list? Crispy picked up, like you said, Atelier Ryza 3.
I don't
No.
even know. Yeah, is that how you pronounce that?
I guess.
You
I don't know.
motherfucker. Tell me you at least went and watched the
Atelier?
preview or something.
Tillier.
Tell
That's
me.
actually it.
Tell me.
No, what? No.
You didn't learn about Ryza 3. You just bid
No,
on it.
I saw you talking about it, and then I went to Twitter and typed it in and saw a few people like, oh yeah, and then was like, good enough for me, and I put like $5 on it or something because I was like, I know Brad's limping into this, but he wants it because he thinks none of us are ever gonna like even bother to look at it because it's some anime game that he
No,
plays.
it's not even about that. I'm prepared to lose out on games I'm low bidding. If I
Oh, I
really
know.
wanted them, I would bid
I
more
know.
money. But
I know.
you know,
I know you have made the calculation in your brain that like I don't need to have this, but it would be nice if I got it for $1. But I
exactly.
feel like there's something in you that's like, they're not paying attention.
You're right. No,
like I'll get away.
If you look at the
I just
bidding
don't
history,
want you to
I've
feel
been
like
bidding
you're gonna
most
get away
weeks.
with this shit. Like
I think I
like,
will,
my-
just 'cause
my-
I have seen
my
the
idea-
results. I'm just
no, my thought is that like if we start like we need to play the bid game and the trade game strong, or else people are just gonna think they can limp into whatever they want for the rest of the year, and that's gonna be catastrophic. That's gonna be bad.
Catastrophic.
So I'm trying to punish people. I'm trying to take games away from them by
but you're
punishing them
filling
with
up your
money.
roster.
I
of
am,
course.
but I'm not like again. I'm not. This isn't. I'm kind of done
see-
with this strategy now. I think.
But see,
Like-
some of the bids I've been making are games like because I have been bidding like pretty consistently. I haven't been getting a lot of games, obviously, but I have been bidding here and there. I'm just trying to pick up some like safe, solid low 80s. So like y'all stealing those is fine, but I'll find more low 80s. I'm not trying to make any like masterful plays or anything. I'm just trying to fill up my
Okay.
roster a little bit.
One
No,
day
I
we'll
know,
get to the
but-
end of this pickup list.
Please proceed.
All right,
Carlos got
Just saying,
Blasphemous too.
which is why
Carlos-
did he? Okay, I mean, yeah,
did-
you sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
He doesn't have a date or anything, so I don't know.
current. Okay. I wanted to bring up the trade negotiations and went down with Crispy and I. They fell apart. And I know this is we're wading into awful territory here. We both have ideological differences about what our games are worth.
You just like
That's a way to describe
like
it.
like you don't. I don't think we do. I mean, I do. Well, okay. I think the issue is that like a number, like the number is the number, right? That's all that fucking matters is whatever number this game pulls. It doesn't matter how many
Yes.
people review it. It doesn't matter if like any of us on the podcast like it. It doesn't matter what anyone in the world thinks about
Right.
this game except for the pool of critics who are putting a number on it, right?
Right.
That's it. That's it. And I feel like, Nick, in your heart, you still have this like social hierarchy of games of like, well, AAA games just have inherent more value than lower level
No.
games. So like moving them around is like kind of weird because you just like can't accept in your heart that like System Shock might be a way better pick than Suicide Squad because
No.
Suicide Squad's a AAA game. Because you want me to dish in money with System Shock for this trade that like we're now seeing today would have been fucking catastrophic, maybe. Like I don't
Okay.
understand, Nick. You said you were talking about how much you liked that game, how much you wanted that game, and then when it came time to put your money where your mouth was, you couldn't fucking do it. Like you couldn't do it. You
All right,
couldn't
look,
in
look.
any way propose or be happy
Okay.
with a trade that demonstrated that you actually valued the game.
Look,
and
look.
Dude,
wanted it.
in my
You
mind,
wanted
in
me
my
to give
mind,
it to you for your song, and that's fine. Like you can just say
I
I'm not
just-
really
here's
that
the thing, I
invested in
wouldn't-
it, and if you're willing to dump it for a cheap price,
No,
whatever.
dude, listen.
But like,
Listen, I went into this trade. By the way, if people haven't picked up on it, it was a trade proposal for Suicide Squad for System Shock, the System Shock remake. And let me tell you, I went into this trade with no intention of putting money in it. I thought it was literally going to be a no-brainer. I thought I was going to say, here, take Suicide Squad and give me this System Shock remake, which may not even break 80. But Suicide Squad has the potential to get high 80s. Maybe, maybe we're all out of our mind. It'll be like low 90s. Who the fuck knows? I mean,
maybe.
it's Rocksteady. In my brain, it's Rocksteady, and they're making a game. It's a games as a service game, yes, but it is a game set in the same universe that they've been making for over a decade now that everybody loves.
Yes.
And I was like, that seems like seemed like a way safer bet than a night
not
dive,
safer.
a night
Look,
dive
look.
remake.
I don't know.
Of a
Like
20-year-old game.
I think
It's
you're
it's not
judging it off
safer.
the specs, and like I'm going more on the fact that like I don't care how good that game actually is now. Like I think Suicide Squad will be a good game. I think it will get lower scores than it would have gotten in previous years because I think the well is poisoned now. I think no matter what happens, there's a certain subset of reviewers who just already have a bad taste in their mouth, and this game has to overcome that now. It's not just like, oh, the new Rockstar, the new Rocksteady fucking DC superhero games coming out. That's awesome. Now it's like, oh my god, like they really need to prove themselves with this because
I'm gonna be honest, Crispy.
allergic to damage numbers or something.
I'm going to
Like,
be
I don't
honest,
know.
Crispy.
Like-
I feel like that argument you just made, unless I just walked away from my phone and didn't see it scroll by, I don't remember you saying that. I never I was like, that I think was a stronger argument than any of the conversations we had about this. I eventually rolled it back to like, I was like, clearly money is what's mucking this whole thing up. So I was like, I'm just going to make an even. To me, it seems like an even trade.
I'm not trying
But-
to like share my insight with you while I'm trading with you, Nick. Like
Mm.
I want you
You
to
share
no,
what
what
put
I'm
up
saying
a
is-
deal.
what
I
I'm
want you
saying
to put up
is-
a deal that makes me think you actually want what you're trading
Dude,
for.
what I'm saying is, if you had said that, I might have been more willing to throw money on top of the game. I didn't think of it that way.
I guess. I mean, it's just maybe at the time it just felt
To me,
incredibly obvious to me.
during the whole negotiation process, to me, the thought of throwing money on top of giving you Suicide Squad sounded insane to me.
I know, because you're still thinking it's Rocksteady, it's AAA.
No,
it's
this
like you just said exactly what I was saying earlier.
Okay.
Like,
all right.
we're reliving this conversation, which kind of left both people not wanting to talk about it anymore.
The point is, it's now things are really interesting, right? The trade didn't happen, so now we both got to live with
It's
our
an interesting
choices.
trade. I'll say that.
No,
At
hang on.
day,
The
it's an
trade
interesting
didn't happen because the closing offer from Nick was, okay, I'll give you Suicide Squad and $3. Like,
Yeah,
shove
$3
that
is
up
like a
your
nothing
asshole.
amount of money.
$3? Are you fucking kidding? That's
It's
like what
almost like
Brad
a-
would pay for a JRPG. Like, come on, that's insane.
Here's the thing.
That's what
I
I
just
paid
didn't.
for anything.
I just didn't think this negotiation was going to be this big a deal, and it clearly is. So I'm in over my
Yeah.
head. I backed out.
I don't know,
Whatever.
man. I just want, like, the thing is, like, I think there was a moment where we both agreed that I
exciting,
was
it's fuzzy.
negotiating from a position of power, but you wanted me to just like look.
I
aside.
think we both thought we were negotiating from a position of power, and that's the problem.
Yeah, that's what happened. That's all that happened. Y'all both,
Okay.
you know,
We need to. Let's move on.
see y'all's games
Yeah,
differently.
no, you're
That's
right.
it.
You're
That's
right.
all it
You're
is.
right. You're right.
Can,
So-
no one's gonna want to like.
can
not
we
fuck up their-
circle back to 25 minutes ago when I was going to provide justification for why I chose
No.
Dead Island 2?
This
No.
Okay,
this
fine,
segment
fine.
should not be taking this long. I'm sorry. I didn't expect to
Alright.
get into this debate again.
This
about
is the
Suicide
only thing we
Squad.
have anymore, guys. Come on, what are you talking
Can
about?
I
this
can I
week?
can I just quickly bring up my thing? I need
Yes.
y'all's opinion because I was gonna bring this up in the Fantasy Critic channel, but it's chaos in there. It's insane. People just start screaming at me and stuff.
Like this.
Here's the thing. Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing. Maybe I'll just save it till next week. We've already been on this for half an hour and it's no rush.
Okay. Well, that's your
Right?
call. Like we can do.
What-
We can save it for
What
next
a
week.
fucking.
All right. Here's the thing. It's the Valheim thing again. This stupid fucking thing since draft night, right? I want to fucking drop it. I go to drop it. I can't drop it. Now we get unlimited drops for games that announce they won't come out, but we get one. Even if they say it's not going to come out, we can drop it, right? But
Right.
when I went to drop Valheim, it's like you can't because it has a score, and I'm like, but the game's not even out yet. The score is an early access thing, but you only get, you only get points if it's 1.0, right? So when I initially drafted it, I saw that it was coming to like console in spring, and I thought that meant 1.0. Now it might not leave early access, so I was going to drop it. My unconditional drop, right? I only get one of those, but I went to do it, and it says you can't do it. And I'm like, well, why is it not letting me do it? And I found out it's because it has a score. And I went on to like the Fantasy Critic Discord server, and I'm like, well, how do I drop this? And they're like, well, the league manager can drop it.
That's me.
So I asked Nick. He's like, if we do, can we do this and we just count it? It won't take away my unconditional drop. But if we all agree that that's my unconditional drop, then I won't drop anything else unless they announce a date or a delay. And I was gonna ask in the channel or what y'all think, but people be crazy. So my question for y'all is that fair? Can I do that? Can I get rid of Valheim as my unconditional drop?
I think it's fair. My only suggestion was that maybe the caveat be that when you do drop it, you immediately replace it with something else.
Well, hang on.
Let's see what happens on Saturday.
Okay.
What
let's-
is
I shouldn't
the?
say that.
Oh yeah. So what are the new?
Oh yeah. Wait. What? We keep saying unconditional drop, and I still don't understand what the conditional.
Okay.
drops are.
Unconditional, not counting counterpicks. If a game is counterpicked, which Valheim was not, you can't drop it for any reason ever.
Okay.
Unless you like trade it or something. I think you might be able to do that. But if like I explained this at the beginning of the segment, but if a game says that it's going to get delayed or it's not coming out that year, if they do that before the end of the year, we can drop that game as many times as many of those as we want.
Okay.
But we only get one that says, look, this game is Starfield's coming out in September. It's coming
And you
out.
just
It's
don't
locked
want it.
in. It's the week before, and you get cold feet, and you say, "Fuck it, I don't want this game." You get one of those.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
saying Nick has
The
to go
free
in there
drops
to
are
drop
only if they
Valheim.
confirm. Like,
Yes.
It's getting pushed
So
out.
Nick has to go into the league settings to let me drop Valheim, but I'm pretty sure when he does that, it's not going to count as my unconditional drop. My question for you is: would y'all let me drop Valheim if it counts as my unconditional drop?
Yes.
Chris
All right,
Davis.
well-
I have a question.
Oh,
Before
you
I
always
read
have a
over.
question. Okay.
So
If you trade me a game, I'll let you do it.
This is why I didn't want to talk about
the bar
You gotta
the
give
bar
us-
for you getting points it is the open critic score has to go above 86,
Give
right?
me Baldur's Gate 3.
Wait, what?
What? No. Look, I'm not going to swap it out with anything unfair.
No, what I'm saying,
it'll be
what,
one more empty slot, and I'll have to bid on that game.
what I'm asking, I'm trying to get clarification because it's an early access game. It already has a score. So for you to earn points on it, the score has to go up above the current score, which is 86, right? So you would earn
don't- I
1
don't
point
talk-
if it went up to 87. Am I
Do
right?
you know how this?
Wait,
No.
I don't
The
know
scoring
what are you
system
talking?
is every.
I
every
don't
point
understand
over
what you're
70
talking
is a
about.
point.
We're
No,
talking
I'm
about
saying-
him dropping the game because now we're not
has-
sure that game's going to hit 1.0 before the
See, it's me. I don't think it's necessarily going to hit 1.0, so I want to drop it. But since it has a score, it's not letting me. Nick can do it,
All right.
but I'm asking
I'm
y'all
just trying
if
to
y'all are okay
understand-
with him doing that.
I'm
All
just
right.
trying to understand the rules when it comes to a early access game. So like,
I'm gonna
If
be
it
honest.
came
I have
out tomorrow-
no idea where. I have no
No,
idea
no,
what that
no.
86 you're talking about is.
No,
We need to
no.
move on. We need to
Okay,
move on.
okay,
Straight up.
You only get points if it hits 1.0. That's the rule. It has to hit
Okay.
1.0.
I wish this could just be the podcast forever.
Yeah.
Well, you're in luck because we have bids to talk about. Apparently, I didn't realize there were 4 new bids. As of,
4
like-
new bids, people
shit.
trying to buy games.
And we'll find out on Saturday. We got Bayonetta Origins. Someone's going for Bayonetta Origins. Cereza and the Lost Demon. Dredge. I'm not even sure what Dredge is. That sounds like a Carlos joint. I'm not sure. Fuga, Melodies of Steel 2. That sounds like a Chris Davis joint to me. I don't know.
I
But
looked it
also-
up. It looks like Advance Wars, but with like
Oh, that's
furry
Brad.
people.
That's a Brad game. all the way.
maybe.
And then Tchia, which that's a Chris Davis game.
I think
almost
it's just
positive.
Chia.
Is it Chia?
It's actually
Okay.
Chia. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll find out on Saturday who bid on those and who gets them. But
we're
yeah,
we're all out here trying to figure out who did this.
That's what's on the line right now. All right, we're moving on. So this is a new segment I wanted to get in the habit of because we do a lot has changed for us over the years too, and I know not all of us on the show like super follow all the headlines like the way we used to and whatnot. So a lot of us come into this and we're like, I'm not sure what's happened this week in gaming. And we don't talk a lot about news, and I don't want that to change. Really, we've always been very impressions heavy show, and
We
and a lot of
did not
stuff.
each pay 100. Crispy.
Was it
Shut up.
100?
No, it was
$50. Don't do
Stop
that
it.
to
Yeah.
us.
Crispy's
It's 300.
Crispy's in chat trying to throw.
All right, I thought it should be 100 for a whole year of competition.
this is our first
$100.
This is our first year
You
doing
can't
this.
change the award
Okay,
after draft
sorry.
night. That's
It
fucked
was
up.
sorry.
We're
I'm
and we are
wrong.
supposing that we're not going to kill each other by December over just $50. Okay,
We're not.
So,
we're
like,
not going to survive. We're not going to survive the year. All right. Pause for a second. I just want to. We don't talk a lot
Sorry.
about news much these days, so I want to make sure we cover some of the big stuff. So I'm gonna be rattling off some headlines from the week on the show going forward. And if anyone has anything they want to throw in, chime in about this, that's great. But for the most part, this is just this is for our listeners' benefit as much as it is ours. So in case you missed any of this stuff, this is what's happened this week in gaming. If I missed anything, feel free to let me know. But a couple big things happened this week. We got the Xbox Showcase is happening on June 11th. That's kind of like when they would be doing their E3 thing, I guess. And I'm guessing this is not really technically E3 because they're not participating in E3 because nobody is.
But
but
it's
on
like
June
the
11th
day before or some shit, right?
Yeah. So June 11th is not only the Xbox Showcase, but they are now directly following their showcase. They're doing a Starfield Direct, as they're calling it. They're going to do a deep dive into Starfield. So
Are you excited?
I'm excited to know more about this for sure.
yeah.
There's a lot riding on this game.
Maybe the showcase is just like,
me.
oh god, it's not coming together, guys. Please help us. It's gonna suck.
I don't think it's. I I do think this also kind of ties into the other one of the big news topics. So obviously, they announced a delay of Starfield to September 6th, 2023. And honestly, when they announced that, I heard nothing but good news, because this is a game I want to be successful. I want it to be good. I like Bethesda games, and any extra time they can take to polish this into something good is a win for us. And also, I was already thinking it was coming out in like August. I don't think, do they even have a date before they pushed it again? I thought they were just saying it's coming like summer or something.
The only closest thing to a date was last year's direct event they did, in which they said, quote, all the
Within a
games
year.
about to be displayed will launch in the next 12 months.
Which now they're missing that. They're missing that window, which is a little bit of egg on their face. But at the same time, if the game comes out and it's good, no one's going to fucking care. So this is good news. I'm looking forward to the Starfield presentation, but also maybe more importantly to me, the Xbox presentation. They've been killing it for the past like few years in terms of just like announcing new games. Like their showcases have probably been the most jam-packed with like announcements, like fresh announcements, than any other presentation. So we're getting both of those on the same day, June 11th.
Yeah,
so I'm sure that's a Sunday. I'm sure we'll be streaming that or commentating it or whatnot. So also, From Software announced DLC for Elden Ring. It's a pretty big deal, right? Isn't that something we've all kind of...
Shadows of the Erd Tree?
Shadow of the Erd Tree. Is anybody... I mean,
it's a big deal for a lot. It's a big deal for a lot of people, for sure. But as someone
anybody
who's never
here
really
not...
played Soulsborne DLC, I mean, it's weird because honestly, Elden Ring is now one of my favorite games of all time.
I mean,
wait, you play the
Elden Ring's one of my favorite games of all time, but I might not play this DLC because I never fucking play DLC ever, almost. So I don't know.
I
The
mean,
Bloodborne one. People like the Bloodborne one.
Oh yeah, I was just saying I played the Bloodborne one. It was fun, but it was like
It's hard.
It was stomp your dick in hard, like yeah.
It's a lot of like all of the Souls games DLCs have a ton of like super bosses, and I feel like I already don't care about hard bosses. Well, okay, it's not
Mr. Papa Shot in chat makes a good point. He says most of the best Soulsborne bosses, historically speaking, have been in the DLCs.
No.
Yeah, because they're the fucking hardest. Whatever. I hate the whole boss conversation. Like, this is why I couldn't get through Sekiro. It's insane. It's insane. I didn't hear like 10 seconds of conversation about any of like the level design and cool stuff in the world of Sekiro.
I talked about that.
No. All of the conversations were about what boss are you stuck on. And I'm so sick of that shit. Bosses are not why I play these games. It's not why I play this series. And Sekiro was like boss wall the game. Literally. Everyone was just stuck on a boss at some point, somewhere in the game, whether it's the final boss or Genchi. I mean, that's the whole fucking game.
The apes.
And these DLCs, all I hear about the DLCs are what boss people are stuck on. You know, it's not what I'm looking for. Elden Ring was a cool big world. I played it for 150 hours that I explored this world. I don't know if I'm going to come back for the DLC. Even though
I will say this: it is hard to imagine going back to a game to play DLC when you know by the time it gets here, you're going to have almost all your muscle memory is going to be gone. So you're going to have to like jump in and relearn how to play it. You know.
Okay. All right. So in January, I did a New Game Plus run of Elden Ring. Played through the entire game.
That puts you in an advantage.
No, hey, you're talking about muscle memory. Like the last time y'all would have touched it was probably maybe March or April at the earliest of last year, or the latest.
Maybe
6 to 8 months or even more of lost muscle memory. Yeah, sure. I did New Game Plus. I'm telling you, that game is so much better on the second run.
Well, I mean, that's not. I mean, no one's debating that.
What does that mean? That can't be true. That can't be true.
It is. Brad, I'm telling you.
Even if it is
1
true,
and 2 bosses, I beat on my first try.
Yeah.
He's saying it's an easier experience, which of course it is.
Oh, easy. Sure. Yeah, a lot of the Souls games are easy in a lot.
But the DLC is not going to be easier.
Oh. No. The DLC is going to be hard as balls, of course. I just hope there's a lot of like land to explore and not just.
I think we'll get a pretty sizable chunk of land to explore.
Sorry, these conversations are going too long. This is supposed to be a quick segment.
Also, there was one thing. Oh yeah, one thing to remember about this DLC announcement is that they when they announced it, it wasn't announced with a trailer. They literally announced it and said now in development, which means this could be at least a year away. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Which
it's
is good, right?
yeah, it's fine. Which makes it also sound like it's going to be a heftier experience, right?
Yeah.
Next up, we have, and this is something I just saw come across today. I thought was really interesting. I don't know how much there's to say about it, but the Epic Game Store announced a self-publishing program for indie developers. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
Where it seems really awesome. Like, where one of the requirements for publishing on their platform is that their games have PC crossplay. So if a game is published by Epic through their publishing program, it's guaranteed to be crossplay compatible with Steam. Just if you're playing on PC, I don't know if that applies to like console as well, but if it's within the PC ecosystem, it has to be
Really?
crossplay.
But I thought Epic Games.
Thing.
I thought Epic Games was the devil because we have to launch 2 apps now.
It is kind of crazy that that's a thing they have to guarantee, though. It's like 2 people playing on PC, like, oh, you can play together. What?
And I don't know what the I don't know what's typical of like the revenue, like the cut share is, but apparently, and they're touting this, like, so I guess this must be good. Devs keep 88% of their revenue for all sales.
No, that was the big thing because Steam was always 70-30, which is crazy, right? And Epic says we're okay.
Wait, in favor of
12. In favor
of the dev, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dev gets Steam takes 30%. Epic comes along and says we're just going to take 12. And people are still saying like Epic is the devil, they want to kill indie games. And it's like they're just trying to be competitive. But I think it's benefiting the devs if they're only taking 12%. But hey, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we live in a Steam Deck world now, so the more
true. That's true.
the more
but
companies that
Epic
jump
Game
ship
Store. No. But Epic Game Store, you can get running on a Steam Deck.
Yeah.
All right.
And they're also dropping, free games all the time. And their storefront, it's getting better. It's not as good as Steam, but it's getting better. So
of course, that's why they're the devil. Because they don't.
And lastly, I have on here. This happened today. WB and Rockstar officially, and we mentioned this earlier, but they officially. What did I say? Rockstar.
Rockstar.
Sorry, WB and Rocksteady have officially delayed Suicide Squad until later in the year.
My superior business acumen wins out.
Okay.
It does. It does. So yeah,
but they're delaying it to improve the game, Crispy. So I don't know if it helps you.
But also, they're delaying it till later in the year. Like I hope they
take their time with it. I hope they take as long as they need.
Well, yeah, if they take as long as they need, I can drop it without consequence.
Crispy, can I ask you, like, true, real talk? You watched the Suicide Squad stuff, right?
The movie? Oh, no, you mean the
game stuff, right? That came out recently. The scene when Wonder Woman has like the lasso of truth or whatever around Flash, and he's like, "How do we stop you?" And he's like, "You have to kill us" or whatever. Right. That's cool, right? That's kind of. I mean,
I've been really enjoying all the story stuff that they put out. I like Captain Boomerang. I think he's a fucking idiot, and I like that he's in the game. like I don't know. This is like. Maybe it's coming a little like too little too late, but if this game had come out 3 years ago, I think it would have been I think it would have been one of the best things ever.
Okay,
I don't know.
Real quick. I think following
But also I don't fucking care about like gear numbers and shit, so I don't know. I guess that's bad. We're done with
I think the immediate assumption about after this delay was announced was that it's being delayed because of the poor reception following that gameplay reveal. But like they're only delaying it a few months as far like they're saying they're going to get out at the end of the year. Like that's not enough time to like
that is the problem.
Change the way the game works. You know what I mean?
Like this game was weeks away from going gold. The only thing they can do with even 6 to 8 months of extra development time
is fine tuning.
Is very fine tuning, quality of life updates, and maybe they could address some small aspects of the games as a service stuff. But the fact of the matter is, they've already got all this stuff budgeted and lined up and planned out. So, like, there's nothing they can do that can really change that demo we fundamentally saw 2 weeks ago.
So, I don't want to get into the. We can talk later about the nitty gritty of like what we think of that Suicide Squad thing, I guess. But like the gameplay, I mean, but you know, this I think this is a positive thing overall. And if they end up pushing it out of the year, then none of us have to worry about it as far as the fantasy critic goes.
Especially
It'll
you,
just be
yeah.
It'll be out of the running.
Well, yeah, because you could drop it. It's not counterpicked.
Yeah, no, if they push it far enough, I can just drop it without issue.
Like Jason Schreier was talking, like he's the one that kind of like broke this earlier today, and he was talking about it, and like I mean honestly, I don't think the game is changing that much. Like even he said this is probably more about just moving it out of a really competitive time window.
Well,
Yeah.
Because
it could
it's
also
coming out
be
next to like
time.
Diablo and fucking.
True, but it could
Also-
also be time to kind of rework the games as a service stuff to make it not feel so gross, because there have been games who've kind of responded to just how much hatred has been going on for games like this, who've kind of like retooled that stuff and made it a lot more friendly, like Mordor did that, and
and another
Battlefront
thing is,
2, right, kind of flipped around, right?
another thing is that WB, they can afford to let Rocksteady's game get pushed even into next year because they are making buttloads of money off of Hogwarts Legacy, whether we like it or not.
And Mortal Kombat 12,
yeah.
buddy.
I mean, I wasn't going to mention it, but
Okay,
what
I
if
know,
they get? What if they do decide that they need a little more work on Suicide Squad and they have NetherRealm just like, hey guys, hold off on Mortal Kombat for a minute and act as support developer for
Then
Rocksteady
he can drop
over
Mortal Kombat.
here.
No, he can't. He can't drop Mortal Kombat.
He
that
can't
just
drop it.
tastes of desperation there, Crispy.
Hey. You know
Every
what? Actually,
conversation we have goes back to the stupid fantasy league. Do you think that?
Yeah,
Hey,
it's
guys,
ruining the
guys.
podcast.
We're obsessed.
I want people at home to tell me, whether you're in chat or you want to leave us a comment. Tell us what you think of this fantasy critic thing. I mean, personally, I'm having a lot of fun with this, but if it's killing our podcast, maybe we should stop it.
Dude,
I don't know.
I think these are the best shows we've done in years.
Yeah,
No, I
true.
agree.
No,
I just
that's
want
a
to
little
point out.
much, but yeah.
I just want to point out. Going back to the Suicide Squad trade, for the record, at one point I offered up Suicide Squad and Redfall for System Shock. And he
Wait, both
rejected
of those?
it. I did, and he rejected it.
I thought it was
And then
like that.
And then I came to my senses, and I took Redfall off the
Crispy,
table.
you rejected that for System Shock remake?
He's
Have you
jumping on me
booted
for
up
not
the
putting
No,
the
demo?
patch
no. There
down.
was something else. There was something else going on there.
Okay.
There was something
There-
else. And like I tried to.
I know what it was.
got,
I know what it was. I said,
I'm not
I said, I'll give
particularly
you.
proud of this, but I tried to get a little sneaky. I thought he was like, kind of just, what's the word?
Blowing smoke?
On
Like
tilt?
he was just, yeah, I don't know. He was just worried about the thing so much, and it's just like I'm thinking. So like, I went in and I rescinded the trade and resent it, except I changed Redfall to Final Fantasy
Oh.
16.
He did like
Like,
a shady
Just to
Diablo
see if he
trade.
would like click it and take it. Like, yeah.
That's like a shady Diablo trade.
Dude, I would as league
I
manager.
thought
if I
you
had
must
done
have
that,
noticed it because you rejected it.
Final
I did
Fantasy
reject it.
16. That's
It wasn't
insane. You're
just
insane.
no, Brad. It wasn't just Final Fantasy 16. His counter offer was Suicide Squad, Final Fantasy 16, Mortal Kombat 12.
No,
counter-
that was a
that's
different
right.
trade. That was a different trade.
That
I
was a
had a
different
trade that
We
was
gotta
like
move on.
half our
we-
lists.
We're
Okay,
still
okay.
talking about trades.
Sorry, this is the Suicide Squad show. Okay, this game isn't even out yet. Okay, so that's it. That's all the news headlines we got for this week. I'm sure there's other stuff, but that's kind of the things that jumped out at me. Let us know what you think. Is there anything else y'all want to say about this? Would you say this is a dumb question? I don't know if this works, but like, would you say this was a good week or a bad week in gaming? I don't fucking know. There's been like,
I don't fucking know.
I don't fucking know.
So here's what I'll say. Based on these topics, I'm always going to
yeah.
assume there's shitty
bad
stuff
week.
happening. I would call it probably a bad week every week because I'm cynical.
You're a pessimist.
But based on these topics, I guess these are all pretty good news. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. It's pretty good stuff. Also, like,
Yuji Naka
lots of-
finally admitted to insider trading, so he's going to prison.
Hey!
There we go. Oh man.
That's a good thing. I don't know. Insider
No,
trading sucks.
It's fun.
it's it's a fun thing. Okay, before we to wrap up this segment, we are going to end with our quote unquote topic of the week. And these are conversations that are inspired by popular topics of discussion in our Discord, which if you're not in there, please join us at discord.gg/4Player. Big topic of conversation this week across the industry, but also in our Discord, of course, is this debate around the term JRPG, right? And whether or not this is a bad word in the industry, how it resonates with Japanese developers.
So this was born out of the Final Fantasy 16 preview coverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Yoshi P in an interview it came up in an interview, and Yoshi P was like, he doesn't like the term. He doesn't want this 16 to be referred to as a JRPG. He kind of finds it discriminatory, and he kind of referred to how, like, decade and a half ago, like, was kind of when this term was born, and people were kind of using it to like shit on Japanese games, right? To kind of section them off from other RPGs. And he doesn't like this term. And a lot of people were kind of chiming in on their opinions on this, even other developers as well. And it's an interesting topic, right? Because a lot of people use it as just a genre classification. I mean, that's how I've always used it, right? Because what RPGs were, I'd say when we were first playing RPGs, it was stuff like Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, stuff on the NES, stuff on the Super Nintendo, Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy, right? Those were just RPGs because that was kind of all what console players had, right? But then there was older nerds who were playing like other kinds of RPGs on PC. But when those started coming out on consoles, I feel like in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, these are both RPGs, but these are very different games. And I feel like that's when people started to use the term like JRPG to like refer to a certain type of RPG. Because honestly, something like a Fallout is very different than like a Final Fantasy.
Right.
Because Fallout is all about like choice, and Final Fantasy is all about a story and this character and stuff.
I will say, like, I do think fundamentally when I stop to actually think about it, it does seem a little kind of just fucked up, just in terms of like drawing a defining line between styles of RPG and using like, like saying like Japanese specifically.
Some of the conversation implies that like there is inherent Japaneseness or something,
right?
To these JRPG, like that, like a certain way of organizing information or organizing menus or like what kind of characters or what kind of stories are like inherently Japanese, and I think that's where I think that's where you run into problems.
So the thing is, I do think this discriminatory like era that they're referring to is a thing that did exist. I don't, especially happen kind of when the HD era started, and it seemed like a lot of like Japanese development was kind of like falling behind, right? And you started to see a lot of people kind of like shit talking like Japanese games because I don't know, they looked like shit, or they weren't as like crazy as some of the like fucking Fallout 3 or whatever, right? And like the early like PS3 and 360 era, where you really started to see some of that stuff that kind of was dominating on PC kind of come out on consoles and really blow up. And I feel like that's when you saw a lot of that shit talking. The Phil Fish thing was a huge thing, right? That shit that he said that really kind of got him eviscerated was that your games suck. Games from your country suck is basically what he said at a panel or some shit to some Japanese guy. And, that was fucked up. So I think they're right about the discriminatory like stuff, but I don't necessarily think it's tied to that term JRPG. Now, Yoshi P wasn't the only person who said this. Someone brought up in a tweet, like literally a quote that the creator of Xenoblade like said 10 years prior, where he almost says the exact same thing that Yoshi P said, that he hates the term, JRPG. They're just RPGs, that it's kind of like discriminatory, right? This is Tetsuya Takahashi, right? The creator of, Xenoblade, Xenosaga, and all that. And it's obviously something they don't like, which is like, honestly, justified. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like when I had a better analogy, but I can't forget it. But the one that's popping into my head right now is like when a band has like all girls, so people call it like a girl band or something, right?
Yeah,
it's like they're just a fucking band. You're just observing that it's three women, so you're, or four women, so you're creating a classification that's not really necessary. And I think that's what maybe they see the term JRPG as, is you're putting us in like sectioned off like thing and with this term, and it's like we're just making role-playing games here, and that's bullshit. Which I get.
I do want to.
get.
I do want to, because there were a couple comments that I think were really interesting. I wanted to tack in Discord that said something. Like he said to him, and I kind of agree with this, and I've never really thought about this until this conversation came up. I guess because it's always been kind of a term of. It's just been a very useful term for me growing up. But he says JRPG has always been more descriptive of a gameplay style than aesthetics. And I think it's somewhat of a subjective term, and as a result, has picked up a lot of baggage from Western audiences. And the term he says the term possibly fuels like reductive or ignorant views, which would explain why Japanese devs are not a fan of it. And I totally agree, but there is a distinction. It's fucked up that I think that we chose that term Japanese RPG, but there is definitely a stylistic difference. Not saying one is better than the other, but there is. You can immediately evoke in your mind like what kind of game we're talking about when you use the term, versus saying something like,
it's not even a style thing. It's like it literally feels like a different genre.
The fucked up thing is that we don't have we don't really have a Western version. Like no one says Western.
We fucking do. No, they do. They absolutely do. Back in the day, it was CRPG. That meant computer RPG. And those were games like Baldur's Gate and Fallout and stuff, where
Crusader
you create a character, you're making all the choices, you're kind of going where you want, which is very different.
We use the word
story
computer
of Cloud,
instead of
who's always Cloud, and he's always going to make the choices he makes because that's what an RPG is. Because all the RPGs on consoles were made in Japan. So,
but the problem is we use the term computer instead of like American. You know what I mean? Like if you said American RPG.
No, but that I'm saying that changed to Western RPG after people stopped when they started to come to consoles, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and maybe that stems from the fact that people started to kind of pick up on like maybe this is kind of fucked up that we call these JRPGs and then we don't acknowledge, we don't acknowledge that aspect of it in any other part of the world. Drunken Merchant brought up, he said he's always seen the term as kind of a celebration of a certain part of the world and a piece of art that they made, which is a really kind of wholesome way of looking at it, I guess. But he did say
that is what the term is, but I do believe that people really see it as like, no, those are the things I like.
A lot of the conversation gets lost in that, like, wait, you're saying that JRPG is a bad term, that it's discriminatory, but like
I never knew that was a thing.
I'm not discriminating, and it's like, dude, that's not really what we're talking about here. Like that's not what it's about. What it's about is that like there's only one country in the world that makes video games that like you delineate their games specifically by the name of the country. Like who the fuck cares about Western RPGs? Because
dude, think about
West
this.
is half the world. Like what does that even mean? Like
fucking Chained Echoes is like a traditional quote unquote JRPG that was not made anywhere near Japan, yet we're still being kind of forced to call it a JRPG because that's just the term.
Because it's just genre classification.
It also puts Western or Japanese developers in this position where like if they make something that isn't like a traditional JRPG, then people are saying like, oh, they're emulating more of a Western style, and it like that might not have
like
ever
Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah,
no one wants to call Dragon's Dogma a JRPG. That feels weird.
That might not have ever entered into like their calculation of design. Like oh, let's make this more Western. It's like no, let's just make a fucking game, and this is what it ended up being. Like I get it, and I know a lot of people have a lot of emotions attached to JRPG and like don't want to feel like they're hurting developers that they really like with the term. But I don't know. I mean, if Japanese devs are saying please don't, maybe
we should
take
that to heart.
Maybe we shouldn't, Like,
but we're at the end of the day, we're still gonna try to like find a way to tell people, no, I'm playing a game like Dragon Quest, not a game like The Witcher 3.
But it suggests that maybe the classification, the term we should be using is maybe something that's more descriptive of the game style itself and not where it came from.
It's the same thing as like when we call something Eurojank, you know?
Yeah.
Like
No,
that's
because-
a little more broadly like an insult because you're calling something
Yes.
janky for being from Europe, but like
yes, we made
I
it
don't
funny,
think
but
the context is really any different.
Right.
Like,
No, you're
like the context, the implication can still be a negative one by calling something Japanese, you know?
I'll
Like,
say this.
if
I'll
you're
say this.
saying that it's different from everything else.
I think I mean, these are people, Japanese creators who make RPGs who are saying like, this is fucked up. We don't want to be seen as a JRPG. We're not making, we don't like the term. So like, we should respect that. But I feel like if we do, we got to come up with something to call it, right? I don't know.
Guess.
Yeah, but the problem is who comes up with that term, right? Like there's no like one person's like, all right, you make the new term. Like it just doesn't work that way. Like
Right.
you can't
It's
put the
whatever's going
toothpaste
to
back
be.
in the tube at this point. You know what I mean? Like not for
Well,
everybody.
I mean,
All right.
I mean,
Well,
the
they're
whole
all just
point of having these
RPGs.
conversations is that like new terms will arise
Yeah,
Yeah.
culturally.
exactly. All right, I think that's a good place to call it there. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to do impressions. We're going to talk about Wolong Fallen Dynasty, Metroid Prime Remastered, Dead Cells, Return to Castlevania. So if you're, and we'll of course wrap up with the 4-player minute. So if you're watching us live, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
No.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. As I stated earlier, we're going to be doing impressions in the second segment, and we're going to start with Brad. What, Brad? What are you laughing
No, the P word with the hard E.
at? Wait, because I said.
No.
Wait, what is the? Wait a second. What is? How do you say that word without the hard E?
Pussy.
Pussy?
Pussy.
Yeah.
With an elongated U. That pussy.
Sorry.
I have no
Okay.
idea.
Children.
All right, I'm reining it back in. Okay, we're starting with Brad tonight. Brad, you've been playing Wolong
Oh,
Fallen Dynasty.
Oh,
I had
God,
intended to
yeah.
start this, but I'm
Yeah.
juggling.
But we
too
know how
many
you
things
feel
right now.
about JRPGs, Nick. This is one of those.
No comment.
Yeah, so this is the new Team Ninjas. I'm still working on that one. The new Souls game from the creator of Neo that everyone thought was like, oh, it's going to be like Neo, but the Three Kingdoms era, right?
Right.
Ah!
Oh my God, that's never happened, Brad.
Sorry,
Okay.
the ad. Maybe I should subscribe to our Twitch channel. I'm not going to pay Twitch half my sub fee just to get the other half back. That's absurd.
It's true. It's pretty true.
Anyways, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, it's the new Neo game, but it's really not like Neo, which I guess is kind of what we're here to talk about, right? Is what
Yep.
makes this different from Neo because it was created by Neo. It's because I think when they first announced it, they were going to be like, oh, it's like Neo, which is we like, but it's going to be Three Kingdoms era. China, of course, right?
Right.
And if you're not familiar with the Three Kingdoms era, I guess as far as like a video game touch point or whatever that most people are going to be familiar with is another series put out by Tecmo Koei, which is Dynasty Warriors. So
Right.
think, or and there's other stuff like Romance of the Three Kingdoms. There's lots of games that are set in this Three Kingdoms era, right? But this is very, this is like it's like you're playing Neo, but with all of your favorite Dynasty Warriors characters who are, the story characters. They're the allies who fight alongside you, which is a big component of this game where they're actually like leveling them up and you're earning like their armor and shit.
The first boss of Wolong is literally one of the primary stars of the Dynasty Warrior series.
Yeah.
See,
like
this is I did not know any of this.
All the characters you that fight along you, all the crazy bosses, they're all those characters from that setting that a lot of games and stuff are based on. It down to like the infamous Lu Bu, right? Which is always like the Lu Bu's always been an infamous character in the Dynasty Warrior series, and sure enough, Lu Bu is like the hardest fight in the game that everyone's like struggling with, right? Which is perfect. It shouldn't be any other way. But anyways, that's the setting, that's the story. If you're into that, I can imagine like people growing up on Dynasty Warriors, like playing this and being like super excited. To me personally, never really played those games, never really played many games in this setting, to be honest. I'm playing it as a fan of Neo and a fan of Souls games. Now, the big difference with Wolong here is that this is much more of a streamlined game than Neo is and was. We talked a little bit about this before when I played that first demo,
A
but
lot of us
they
played
took
that
out.
first demo, and that's a big point of aspect of this conversation too, because they've
Yeah,
apparently changed a
things
lot since that
things
demo.
changed. Things changed.
That
So
demo
so
is
that,
hard as
so
fuck.
so 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 it's sort of like two components to this conversation, right? First is like that big change, which I will get to in a second. But first is that this is a much more streamlined Neo. And when I was hearing about that, I thought that meant they were going to strip out a lot of like the loot and RPG systems of Neo, which because Neo isn't just like a Souls game, it's also like part Diablo, right? Like loot and builds and stuff is a big part of that series. And I thought they were going to like take all that out, and what was left was going to be more of a Sekiro style game, which this is. This is clearly inspired by Sekiro because the parry is everything to the combat system, which is fine. What I didn't expect is they really, 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 and it's my biggest problem with this game, they cut out like all of the combat depth of Neo, which in my opinion has some maybe like the best action combat system of any game. Like
Was
it's
that
crazy. You have
combat
all the
depth present in the demo, or
no. It's the same as
okay?
it was in the demo. But it's of course back then everyone was like hand waving them away, saying it's just a demo. Stop worrying about things. Well, now the game's out and I'm playing it, so fuck you. I was right. This is a very like a weapon in Neo was like crazy, right? Because you had like three different stances, right? That you could switch between on the fly, usually with like moves and transitions and key pulses and stuff. But like in each of those stances for any given weapon had like light and strong attacks. Now, like so your light attacks in like a low stance could be really fast, but like say a strong attack in like your high stance is like really like strong physical move. And depending on the weapon, some of those moves are like longer ranged or shorter ranged. And basically you had like a ton of options with a single weapon in Neo, and they were all very different, and it made it exciting. Like picking up a new weapon in Neo is almost like picking up a new weapon in Monster Hunter, right? Like that's how different they could feel. Maybe not quite that different, but you know what I mean. There's a lot of like differences here,
Right.
and it's crazy depth. There's like skill trees, all kinds of maneuvers, dodges, parries, flips. It was crazy. It's great. I love Neo. This game, each weapon, there's a ton of weapons in this game. Each weapon has a single combo, like a single light attack combo. That's it. That's the weapon depth. You have an X combo. You don't even have a strong attack modifier. So where you can do a light attack and then like it changes the kind of double heavy that you do after that. Or you can start with the heavy attack and then switch to your light attacks and do like a flurry, right? It doesn't do that. You have one X combo, and that's
So where
the
does the
moves,
depth
right?
come from? Do you like swap out the weapons on the
There
fly
is
or
no depth.
something?
There's no depth, and I'll explain. I mean, I'll get there. There is like a strong button, but your spirit attack is a single attack. No matter where you do it in your one combo, that attack is always the same. The one exception is if you do it raw, like, but if you do it raw without pressing your combo button, right? But it's literally there's no depth there. So I feel like there's not a lot of personality to the weapons, and that's crazy from the creators of Neo. Like I kind of don't even care when I see new weapons. I'll try the one combo, and if it like comes out too slow, I'm like, well, this weapon's trash. I'll never need to use it because that's the one combo. That's how it's always going to feel. That's the depth of this weapon. Now, you can get martial arts and stuff, but even there's a maximum of 2, and it's like there's not much depth to it, right? Even those are randomly attached to weapons. So
Right.
like in Neo, if I want to use a slow weapon but I was fighting like a tough fast enemy, I could switch to the low stance and do like a quick attack to kind of like launch my approach quicker than if I in like a heavier stance. You know what I mean? Like I had options with any given weapon to handle a variety of situations. Here You get your one combo, you get your one spirit attack, and you have your fucking parry, right? Which is all about the parry. Wolong is all about the parry. It's like Sekiro, right? Here's the crazy part. In the first demo, the parry timing was tough. It was not like Sekiro, which is fine because Sekiro is a game that's all about this balance of like back and forth that you do with this enemy, right? You're gonna parry, they're gonna parry. It's back and forth. It's all about this meter that once you break the enemies, you're gonna do a death blow, right? But in this game, and when that first demo, people were like, "Well, the parry is very unforgiving," but you didn't really use it like you did in Sekiro, right?
Right.
You can block regular attacks, right? You could just block them. It'll kind of slowly drain your stamina, but then the enemies would do like big red attacks, more telegraphed attacks that are red. They're like super moves, and those you couldn't block, and you kind of would have to parry those or get the fuck out of the way, right? But the thing
Right.
about the parry in Wolong is when you do parry one of those red attacks, they're super attacks, you get a ton of reward. So much so that if you're not parrying those big red attacks, you're never going to kill these bosses. They're fucking damage sponges. It's insane. You have to be parrying these red attacks because it's all about this meter management. So you're forced to engage with the system. But after that first demo, they got a lot of negative feedback, probably because it wasn't as forgiving as it was in Sekiro, but because they were different fucking games, they widened the parry window significantly. So now it's really easy to parry anything, which
They
has
overcorrected.
really made they overcorrected. So now what happens is instead of like blocking most things and parrying the things where you really needed to, where you really wanted to get that reward, now you're parrying everything because it's really not that punishing. And if anything, the red attacks are just like the easier ones to see coming because they usually come out slower and it's not hard to parry them. And that's how you do damage. You can make a whole spell build, but it doesn't really matter unless you're like a new game plus. You're not going to do enough damage with those fucking spells to really beat at least even some of the human bosses, right? You ain't beating Lu Bu with some fucking spells, not a new game, right? So you have to engage with the system, but they made it too easy to parry, which means there's not that tension, right? Before I was afraid of like most enemies in the game, even just regular human in that first demo, regular human enemies were scary to me, right?
Which is a very important part of like the Souls franchise, which is why, Neo is very
Because there
much
was
kind of like their spin on the Souls franchise. And if what you're describing is correct, obviously this is like their take on Sekiro, but like they've overcorrected to the point where like one of the most important aspects of any From Software game is being intimidated by just about every enemy you come across, which doesn't seem to be the case here. Because that demo that I played
true. I mean,
was
it's
almost
like
too
that
hard for me.
Neo sort of, but I mean, it was like that in that first demo, though, right? Because there was a risk to the parry. That was the thing, right? There was a risk to the parry. So unless it was a red attack, I probably wasn't really parrying much in that
Right.
first demo because if you fuck it up, you're going to take a lot of damage and it's not worth it. So I'm going to block or I'm going to get out of the way. But now I'm just parrying everything. I'm parrying everything. I'm parrying regular attacks. You can literally parry every single thing in this fucking game, every single attack. In like Sekiro, they would mix in grabs or like, so if you're blocking or parrying, you're just going to get grabbed and they're going to fuck you up. Like classic fighting game triangle, right? But here they don't do grabs. Literally, you can parry everything. So it's like, and if you try to not engage with the parry system, you're going to have a bad time. It's not fun. I mean, maybe you can really find some like I said in that first demo, I managed to find some like spell combo that finally let me beat that boss, but it was like fucking hard and painful to do that. When if I would have really just kind of learned the parry and mastered it, I would have gotten it. But now it's not even that difficult. Most of the bosses I come across, I'm beating on the first try, which is insane for a game like this. It would be insane for Neo, and it's insane here because I don't know, they overcorrected. And I think it ruined the balance of the game a little bit. You can't just take your core mechanic, tweak it significantly, and just call it a day, right? Because the game wasn't designed around that. It was designed around a different kind of parry. So I get into these situations where so much of the game is fucking easy until I get a really difficult boss that seems like way harder than anything else. And then I get 5 bosses that I beat first try, and then I get an extremely difficult boss. And it's like, this is probably because they tweaked with a significant feature in the last few months before release, and you can't fucking do that. Like, what the hell is this shit?
So are you gonna stick with this game, or
I'm gonna stick with it because these games still feel good to play, right? Like they still feel good to play. A lot of the RPG stuff is still there, surprisingly. The stuff like tempering has been streamlined and made easier, but there's a form of it that's still there. So there's still some build crafting to do. What surprised me is that it's the mechanics, the weapon system that has been far too simplified and kind of frustrating me in ways that I was not expecting. But at the end of the day, when you're being attacked by like aggressive enemies and you're parrying this and parrying that and parrying this and going for your death blow, it still feels cool. It still looks cool. And it's still, I mean, Soul's level design is still really strong. Even though this is not an open world, you got to jump now, you're climbing, you're mantling onto things. So there's more verticality in the levels in more interesting ways.
Is there some like I don't know how to say this other than to just describe it as, I look at this game and I'm like, so brown. Does it ever get not brown? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, what do you
Any like lush jungles or wait, what?
I mean, there's colorful games out there if that's what you want, but I mean, so that is the thing, right? This is like Three Kingdoms era. It's a lot of like wars, battlefields, like
right,
like forts and stuff, and that's not the most exciting visually, I guess. So I do kind of concede that. One thing I'm a little missing from Neo is that had a slightly more of like a horror bent to it, I guess you could say.
The supernatural stuff shouldn't seem as prevalent here.
I mean, there's supernatural stuff. It's just not like creepy like ring ghosts and stuff, or like there's some like pretty weird or wild out there creepy stuff in Neo, and like even some of the sillier stuff. Like one of the most fun things about Neo is like kind of running around collecting all the green guys and stuff, and you had those walls that were like had with eyes that would open secrets, and you'd have to like pose to them and stuff to like get through the secrets. Like they had cool supernatural stuff. The supernatural stuff here, at least so far, has not been like so crazy. It's just been kind of like whatever. And I don't know. I'm on the third area. I'm probably like 8 missions and 9 missions, and I don't know. But I mean, I have not finished the game, obviously, but I'm enjoying playing it moment to moment. I find
but
these
it
games
ain't
pretty
Neo.
addictive. But it's not Neo, and that makes me sad. It makes me sad. So someone in Discord brought up a good point. Is like, man, I don't even know if we're going to see any Sunhee Legend gifts for this game.
Oh, I'm sure we will.
That broke my heart.
Dude, I'm sure
he might
we
be
will.
right. He might be right.
Nah, I don't buy it. He does some crazy shit with like even like the littlest things.
I guess, but I mean, he likes combat depth, so because style. He's all about style in his.
I think when you compare this to like
combat demonstrations, and if he can't style up Wolong, I don't know what he's gonna do. It's definitely gonna be a video where he's doing lots of like crazy parries, I guess. But like that's the thing, everybody's doing those same fucking parries because it ain't that hard. I mean,
he does cool shit in like Nier Automata. Are you saying this has less depth?
Yes, 100%, 100%.
That was like 100%. A button masher, practically.
Yeah, you're right, but I'm not talking about like difficulty. Like you had like a lot of like options and combo routes and stuff. There's stuff you could do to like really kind of like add a lot of style and flair and there's a lot of shit in that game. Sunhee Legend gifts are
all right. I'm just saying
like
I'm willing to bet
combo. It's one combo.
I'm willing to bet he'll do something for this. And
there is more combat depth in that Yakuza Ishin game.
Oh shit!
It doesn't feel as good to play as a Team Ninja game, but there's more combat depth there, which is crazy. Right. Crazy to think a Yakuza game has more combat depth than a game from the creators of Neo. That's insane.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so that's where I'm at. I'm enjoying it. This is still kind of my lane, if you will, but I'm a little disappointed, to be completely honest.
That's fair.
I'm kind of relieved after everything you're talking about with it, the parry window being expanded massively, and things like that. Because I had a terrible experience with that first demo. It fully pissed me off, and I immediately deleted it as soon as I was done with it.
I mean,
is it that boss?
I didn't even get to the fucking boss.
Oh. Okay.
Dude, I mean, I
got to the tiger things, and they instantly murdered me like 12 times, and I was done.
I'm kind of in Chris Davis's camp in terms of like the demo seemed really, really, really unnecessarily punishing, but I
Yeah, it's
also
not
could
like
see
y'all should have
how.
played the second demo.
But if I can see how it'd be really easy to way overcorrect and tip the scales in the opposite direction, which sounds like they may have done here. But I don't know. I'm going to give it a shot myself at some point. I just got a few other games I want to wrap up before I do that. So let's shift gears. Chris Davis, I want to send it over to you because it's actually been a few weeks since this came out. We haven't talked about it at all or mentioned it on the show, but Metroid Prime Remastered is out. Even though I have my copy, I haven't started it yet. I have played the game, the original, and of course Brad has. Crispy, you played the original Prime, didn't you? At some point,
I played like half of it.
gotcha. So we're all
On
at least
the
at
Wii?
on some level we're familiar with it. But Chris,
well,
you've been
this was
playing
my
the,
first experience with Metroid Prime 1.
What?
Yeah, I never
What?
played it back in the day. In fact, my first Metroid, this is going to piss Brad off. I know it's going to. But my first Metroid experience was Prime 3 Corruption.
Federation Force.
I thought you
That's
were going to say.
fine. I mean, I thought
Dread.
you were going to say Other M. I thought you were going to say Other M.
No. I wasn't going to piss you off that much. No, and the only reason I played Metroid Prime 3 was because my roommate at the time, he got his copy in, and he was immediately going to go on vacation, so he let me play it, and I played it over the course of a week, and I considerably enjoyed myself.
Part of me is still really angry that this remaster is not the whole trilogy, because as much as I'm so thrilled that this game is here, and this is a really impressive, like essentially a remake. Calling it a remaster seems, I think, it is underselling it. But 2 and 3, Prime 2 and 3 are still not there, and I was hoping to start. I was going to jump straight into Echoes, Prime 2 Echoes, when that trilogy came out, but we're still waiting. But anyways.
And word is about 2 and 3 is that they're still coming. They're just not going to be the remaster level that this
the
game
remake
got.
level. They're gonna be more of what you expect out of a remaster, and less what this actually is, which is more of a remake.
They chose such a weird word to describe this game, because this is way more than a remaster.
I think
You're
it's
right, but
somewhere in between.
We could debate those terms,
especially from my comparisons and looking back and forth between the two games. Like the level geometry is still there. It's still the 100% same map, same gameplay loop, same everything. It's just it's prettier, and they've redone the models. That's really
visual remake. It's like the Ocarina of Time on 3DS or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I guess
what
that's fair.
Pocop said. It's the same bones, it's the same muscle and sinew. It's just new skin.
But yeah, they had to remake that skin. You know what I mean? But whatever.
I mean,
we don't need to get
Master Chief Collection a remake.
Also, didn't the muscles change a little bit because of the control scheme?
Yeah,
did they change the controls?
Because the first game it wasn't a twin stick, first person game.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
That's why I want. Didn't you hear me talk about? That's why I want 3 remade so badly, because that one only has the Wii pointer controls, and I fuck that.
Yeah,
I want this version for 3.
Yeah.
So what do you think of Metroid Prime? It's not your first Metroid Prime experience, because you've played Metroid Prime 3, so you have some familiarity with the franchise.
It's not as exciting. This is not your first Metroid Prime experience.
No, it's I mean, technically speaking, it's not. But it's the first time I've ever played one with a control pad without a Wiimote. I like it. I did enjoy my time with that. I think I put 15 to 18 hours into it. I don't remember exactly how much.
Wait, did you finish? You said you finished this already?
I finished it Monday.
Damn.
Yeah, man. I focus on one game at a time. And
hey, bitch, I do too. I just don't have.
Allegedly, you do.
Do you, Nick? How's Forspoken coming along?
I'm not playing because I'm focusing on one game.
Yeah,
and it's not Forspoken.
I like what they did with this game. I do take some issues with it. I mean, granted, it is a 20-year-old game at this point.
You about to talk trash about a goat. Right?
It's not his goat.
Let's hear it. Let's hear the wild takes.
Moderate criticisms.
Okay.
Moderate criticisms. Like, for one, okay, here is a quality of life thing that does not make sense to me. This is a very dark video game. Okay?
Yes.
There is no brightness controls in this game. You can't adjust the brightness. And you have no flashlight. So until you get the X-ray or like the thermal vision, you go into a dark room You're stumbling around yourself trying to figure out what's going on.
Chris Davis, are you sure there's no brightness settings? I feel like you're not even allowed to ship a game without brightness
Bro,
settings.
believe me, I looked. It's not there.
Somebody in chat.
Main menu? You checked the
Fact
main
check.
menu?
Yes.
Did you
I
check
checked
the
the
Usually under
settings?
like options or settings.
All right.
I'm not that stupid, guys. I know where a fucking brightness setting is. in
We're
this game.
just checking.
There are there's what you call the color blindness filters. There are 4 different settings for that for certain types of color blindness. There's no actual brightness controls in this game, which makes no sense.
That does seem suspect. I will say this: Metroid Prime, just as a game, was always it's designed to be very, very atmospheric, and they use contrast a lot to create that sense of atmosphere. I think so. Like it is a dark game, but like and maybe that's more prominent now that it's being remade and it's on more powerful tech. Like it used to be, maybe on like it's been a long time since I've played it, but I would imagine on back in the day, it may have appeared a little bit more like washed out, so like it was easier to see in dark levels. But now you're actually able to hit those like peak black levels. So like
Back
maybe
in the
that's
day,
where
you
it's
were
coming.
playing on CRTs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you were
So,
playing on
like,
CRTs that were technically fuzzy on it.
Well, I just Googled Metroid Prime Switch brightness, and apparently a lot of people are having issues
Yeah.
with it. So,
Okay.
so
Interesting.
maybe he's not crazy.
Yeah, and
Wait a second. You are playing. You told me the other day. You said you're playing on an OLED TV, aren't you?
Yes, that was the other thing. Is that
that might
OLEDs
be-
have perfect blacks? They turn off the pixels, so
Yeah, that might actually be part of the problem.
that
I mean,
does contribute to it. But I guarantee it's bigger than that.
I'm not like an expert on like televisions and whatnot, but I always remember when I was trying to make a purchase decision myself about what TV to get that was best for gaming. I always remember people saying if you're trying to choose between getting like an LED or an OLED, go LED. Is LED what I'm thinking of? I'm basically saying don't go OLED because of how sharp how intense the contrast is. But maybe, like I said, I'm no expert.
Well, yeah,
but
you are
I
no
always-
expert, and I will tell
people
everyone
told me
listening right now that OLED is the technology, the feature, and it's what everyone should get. Fuck LCD by comparison.
People told me to shy away from OLED, but that was admittedly that was like 7 or 8 years ago. I think.
Well, they're foolish. They're outdated in what they understand. Anyway,
you see this shit, Chris Davis? Can I just say here, now that you've played through Metroid Prime, like I feel like I get a lot of shit about Dread, right? But like Metroid Prime is like one of the most beautiful, most atmospheric games I've ever played in my life, right?
Yep.
The atmosphere is insane, but like also like Super Metroid, Fusion, and stuff. So like when I'm talking shit about Dread, and I'm like, it doesn't quite have the atmosphere of like some of the best Metroid games. That's like an important part of this series, you know. And look at this shit. Sorry,
sure, it is pretty and it is atmospheric. That cannot be denied. You know, and after I beat the game and I was doing comparisons to the original version, looking at just how drastically the lighting is improved and the texture work is redone, like it's dramatic, really. I think that's the best adjective I can provide.
I heard somebody else talking about this game, and they just kind of like, of course, I've always known this, but like, it still kind of blows my mind when I take a second to think about it, and how Nintendo, who had obviously developed these games, Metroid games, internally for so long, literally said, let's give this franchise to a random studio based out of, I think they were located in Austin back then too.
Yeah.
Retro.
Let's just hand this beloved franchise, to Retro Studios in Austin, Texas, and somehow they made one of the best fucking video games ever made. And it's just like, when you think about that, that's nuts.
Insane.
Yeah, but here's the thing: Nintendo didn't think it was one of the most beloved franchises they own. They didn't give a shit. Otherwise, we would have had 14 different Metroids by now.
Don't we technically gotta have like 14 different Metroids? But I feel like it's a lot.
No. He's got a point. Like this has always been like a really low selling series, and
there are 7
honestly,
Metroid games.
It's never done very well in Japan. and none of the games have cracked over like God, maybe even 5 million copies. Like it's not. It is a low selling series. Like we're
Blows
about
my
to talk
mind.
about we're about to talk about Dead Cells in a second. I'm pretty sure Dead Cells has outsold every Metroid game.
Blows my fucking mind.
Yeah,
It's such
you
a
know,
great game, series.
the
But like,
inspiration for like an entire genre, and like people barely even bought Castlevania and Metroid. It's crazy.
yeah,
It's absurd.
Yeah, like I mean, my other main criticism about this game is the artifact hunting you have to do. Like
Oh yeah, it's
one
the
of the things I
Triforce
always
quest
have.
of Metroid.
So I played Super Metroid last year. It was me doing my due diligence and my homework, to figure out exactly what a Metroidvania is. So the thing about Super Metroid was that you had to do a lot of poking and prodding on walls to figure things out. But that works in a 2D flat environment. It's a lot harder to do in a 3D environment with a lot of vertical platforming.
because there's a lot more wall.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you have to do so their remedy for that is the scanning aspect. And scanning theoretically I think is a good idea. But
It's clunky, and there's a lot
it's
of it.
clunky, and the artifact hunt that's required to get to the actual end game requires so much scanning, backtracking, and utilization of the final powers that you get in the game. It's a detriment to the overall experience.
Yeah,
But
it's the
like you
one,
said, it is a 20-year-old game.
It is
It's
a
the
20-year-old game,
one
but if I
design
would have played
flaw
this
of
20 years ago,
Prime.
I would have been just as disappointed as I was with Wind Waker's Triforce Hunt.
And people were frustrated back in the day as well. That's why like there's still like some debate. Like some people prefer Metroid Prime 2. Some people even like Prime 3. And I feel like a lot of it comes down to a lot of people really hate that artifact hunt. It's only in that first game really where it's really annoying like that. So I don't know. I mean, Metroid Prime 4 is probably not going to have that issue. So
God, I keep
God, I
forgetting. I
hope
was
so.
literally just sitting here. I was literally sitting like this Pocop in chat said something about the innovations in first person gameplay that we have now, like mobility and Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal and stuff. And I'm sitting here. I was like, God, it'd be so cool if they made a Metroid Prime game today. And I was like, wait a second, fuck, I completely forgot.
do you
They
see
are.
this shit? Do you see this shit? Do
Yeah,
you
no, it's
look
crazy.
look at this? When Metroid Prime came out, it was like, oh well, this is the I mean, it was
This
like
is clearly
one of
the best video game
vi-
ever made.
no. It was one of the best looking video games
Yeah.
ever made,
That's what I mean.
right? Like technically, artistically, it's like with just the visual, like the visual of it is like, oh my god, this is
Yeah.
Metroid. This is fucking gorgeous.
Like
To
this
know that
came
we're
out a
finally
year
getting
before Half-Life 2 and Doom 3.
Yeah.
And it still is stunning visually.
The fact that we're finally getting Metroid Prime again and it has to run on a fucking Switch kills me.
It's a bit
It
of a crime.
deserves so much better than that.
Oh my God,
Come
Brad!
on.
But Brad, to be fair, that's been your argument about every great video game on the Nintendo Switch since it came out.
Kind of.
Like you're gonna say that about Tears
but
of
I
the
really
Kingdom
love
too.
Metroid.
You're gonna say that
No,
exact thing about
we,
Tears of the Kingdom.
no, because we've had a Breath of the Wild game on the Switch. We know what that's going to be. We know what that's going to look like. And it sucks. You're right, because there was a time where Zelda games were the best looking games out there as well, right? But Metroid Prime's been gone for so long, man. And people are booting this up and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. This thing is still scoring off the charts. Sometimes games get like re-released, remasters, and like they score like way lower than they did back in the day because I don't know, times have fucking changed and this doesn't really hold up, Devil May Cry sucks now, so it's like a 72 on Metacritic, right? But like this thing is still like at a 95 on Metacritic. Like this survived
Thank
the
God.
sacred cow.
Thank God this was one ineligible for
Discussion.
Fantasy Critic, and two was was shadow dropped.
Yeah.
So like even if it was eligible, we couldn't have picked
it
it up
wouldn't
in
have
time.
been
So
eligible
wild.
because they call it a remaster. They call it a remaster, so it's not eligible.
Yeah.
Even though it is technically like Dead Space counts because that was a remake and remakes
Right.
count. But this
We
is
get
a remaster.
it's wild. We get shadow drops a couple a year, and the shadow drop in and of itself is like kind of exciting. Like, ooh, what's this hi-fi rush? Like,
Yeah.
but the fact that Metroid Prime remake came out as a shadow drop, like still kind of blows me away. Like that's a huge title to just be like, go get it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, this
but
year
but
has
also the
been
thing
crazy.
is that Nintendo, of all the developer publishing houses out there, that's the publisher that is most able to do those kinds of shadow drops because they ordered these games and had developers build them, and then they just shelve them once they're done and just wait until it's just the right window in their release calendar.
Yeah,
You know,
like Fire
you know,
Emblem Engage was developed more or less the same time while Three Houses was in development, and it's probably why it doesn't have all the things that people like about Three Houses because they're different teams developed almost at the same time. Rumors are that Engage had been ready to just be released for like over a year or more, but they just
that's
waited.
crazy.
It's
That's
crazy.
crazy. You know,
I-
my one concern about this Metroid Prime situation, and obviously they're gonna milk it, right? Like that's why they didn't just release a trilogy. They know they can make money multiple times by releasing all three of them separately and making us pay for it 3 different times. My concern is that they have released this beautiful remake of Metroid Prime 1, and they're expecting people when they see Metroid Prime 2 drop to just be like to just assume that it must be just as much, there must be just as much care put into this as one. So yeah, of course I'm going to shell out full.
This has
full
happened
price.
exactly one time before that I can think of, and it was when they remade Resident Evil for the GameCube, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" And then they're like, also here's 2 and 3 because I guess y'all want that," but they were just like lazy ports.
Yeah,
You're like, "No, what the fuck?" Remake is like so amazing. So if they do that, it's literally going to be that same situation as remake one, as the Resident Evil series on GameCube,
yeah.
which would be sad.
I do want to mention real quick before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
The remastered version does come with some interesting quality of life and features that weren't present in
Like
especially
what?
the American version.
Quality of life? Quality of life?
Yeah. So I mean they're very minor things and quality of life may be the wrong term. So for example, there is an extra option in this game for some narration. And it's before you
Yeah.
jump down my throat. The idea behind this narration is that it was featured partially enabled in the European version and then fully enabled in the Japanese version.
Yeah, it's a Blade Runner situation.
No, it's not that. No. The idea is that very, very rarely there will be one instances in which, for example, you walk into a room, enemies pop up, they lock the doors, right? In those instances, if you turn on this feature, sometimes you'll have a voice come on saying, kill all enemies to open locked doors or things like that. Or when you go to a new region for the first time and they show you the name and everything, it's like a new mystery. They're like the Magmore Mines or something like that. Just
The
very, very
narration will
light
actually-
stuff. There's no actual except for like the very ending of the game, there is no actual functional narration for what Samus does. But it's
I'm trying
kind
to
of
figure out
cool
why
that
you
they
would-
have it in there.
I don't like it. I don't like it. Like going
It's kind
into
of a
like
weird
the
inclusion.
Phendrana Drifts for the first time is like honestly like an all-time moment for me. If there was a fucking voice saying Phendrana Drifts, yeah, that would be like it's terrible.
I like
You
how
just ruined it.
when Chris Davis said it, he added like extra like baritone to his voice, and when Brad does his impersonation, he's
No,
like,
I'm just
uses
saying.
his condescending nerd voice.
No, coming out of the Magmore caverns into like
Phendrana
Phendrana
Drift.
Drift.
caverns. Yeah.
Welcome to Phendrana Drifts.
Real quick, Chris Davis, your mic
It
might
would
be
be like
kind of poppy right now. I'm not
Okay.
sure if you need to like restart it or whatever.
I'll see if I can. in a
I'm
second.
just saying, in terms of like, what it would be grating, even if not literally delivered like that. Like, what are you doing? This is a moment that needs nothing but what I'm looking at right now. This transition from the Magmore, caverns to
I do feel like Metroid Prime is like a pretty lonely feeling game.
yes,
And that's
all
important.
of Metroid,
And I
all
get
of
that
Metroid.
that's kind of part of the vibe.
Yeah.
And like in Metroid Prime, like in Super Metroid, like that is a lonely feeling game too. But yeah, I don't know. It like kind of bums me out in Metroid Prime a little bit, if I'm being honest.
This is, well, I mean, play Prime 3, because Prime 3, they just added all these fucking characters like aliens. They're like, "What's up, Samus?"
Yeah.
It's like crazy. I
I'm
swear to
not, I'm
God.
not
I swear to
saying
God.
like I'm not saying there needs to be a bunch of NPCs running around being like, "Hey, Samus," but like
Well, that's Prime 3.
it is.
I mean, that is one
There
thing
is
I
a
will give
certain
Prime 3.
solitude to the game.
That is one thing I will give Prime 3 in comparison to Metroid Prime 1 Remastered, is that I do kind of miss just a little bit more direction. You know, because here's the thing. The game does have a hint system in it. I don't know if this was in the original game or not. But if you are wandering around on the map for too long, and you have this feature turned on, the game will automatically pop up a notification saying, gravity anomaly detected in X sector. Open your map to find it.
That was at least in the Wii version.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah, you're talking to people who have played Metroid Prime.
So
in
that
the
wasn't
past
the original. I didn't even know if that was actually in the original.
Yeah, it was in the original.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
The hint system that shows you where to go.
Yeah, where like the map's like,
Yeah.
wait. Like,
Yeah.
And
That's
you're like,
what-
shut up, I'm exploring.
well, I mean, what I'm saying is that I appreciate that optional level of direction, and I kind of wish there was additional, just minor, very small narrative pushes to go along with that.
Samus needs a guy in the chair to be like, Samus, what are you doing? Get over to the Phazon mine.
Not even that. Like I scan something and it tells me this thing is over in this spot. Like player discovery kind of stuff like that. That's not really in this game, but I kind of wish it was. But
I think
again,
you
this
might
is
be in
me
the minority
criticizing a
there.
20-year-old game, a GameCube game.
You enjoyed it? Would you play Prime 2 if that came out remastered?
Probably, I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
Man, this-
I
at that
would not
point-
be in a rush to immediately play it, but yeah.
Wow. Okay.
This guy. All right. We got one more game tonight before we wrap up.
Yeah,
Brad, you want to
I'll
tell
be
us
quick
about
on
Dead
this one.
Cells? Return to
so,
Castlevania.
Dead Cells Return to Castlevania is the new DLC expansion thing for Dead Cells. Dead Cells is a game that I played like a little bit of back when it came out of early access finally. A lot of people really like Dead Cells, probably just because it feels really good to play. It's like fast and furious, and you're like hacking things up, and it's a roguelike that people like. But I didn't really get down with it that much. But this came out, Castlevania, I couldn't resist, right? Because
Had the word
it's got
Castlevania in it.
areas, enemies, weapons, and sub weapons, and they added a whole bunch of music, all kinds of Castlevania remixes. They added a whole lot of Castlevania into Dead Cells. So I'm like, okay, well, this is the perfect time for me to finally give Dead Cells a proper chance. And let me tell you, in terms of like it having like cool Castlevania shit in it, I'm here for it. I love it. I love me some Castlevania. And a lot of it is because, Castlevania is one of those franchises kind of like Dragon Quest where there, certain songs, certain, it's not just like characters and story. It's like a whipping a candle or fighting death or like hearing this song, yet another version of Bloody Tears. Like the things that make it Castlevania are present in every single one. So to see that stuff in another game is exciting to me. It's why like Bloodstained doesn't feel the same hole in my heart as as Castlevania, even though it's a lot
Right.
like Castlevania. I need those things. I need the blue slime. You know what I mean? If that makes sense, whatever.
What is
So
the
yeah,
connection here?
it's excited
Like-
to get like the iconic. What do you mean connection?
I mean, like, are you just playing Dead Cells with like Castlevania like music and skins, or is there like actual like
No.
is there like a story that like takes you to like
Yeah.
actual
Like
Castlevania?
Richter, Alucard, they're all like characters in like this game, but it's not like. So this is like integrated into the main game. Like the Castlevania areas are kind of just like new biomes. You have new bosses, right? Which happen to be Death and Dracula and whatnot. But I was a little worried because Dead Cells has been out for a very long time. It's got a lot of content that like, and I'm starting from zero, right? Because I've not
Right.
really played Dead Cells, not on the save at all. I started from zero. Am I really going to be enjoying much of the Castlevania stuff on a fresh save because this is a roguelike? But luckily they implement it to where like from the first area, no matter what, which is it's a roguelike, it's randomly generated. the level design stuff, you're always going to be able to get to like the new Castlevania areas, at least kind of like the easier versions of it, of the castle grounds, and then Dracula's keep, or whatever the fuck they call the areas, right? So I've been able to, even though I'm kind of like doing a lot of what is basically like early Dead Cell stuff, just kind of like grinding through unlocking my shit. I've been doing a lot of that while spending a lot of time in these Castlevania areas, which is cool, right? Because you know you spend your currencies on, like, and you kind of choose what you want to unlock, right? Because the stuff you unlock is stuff that will show up in your run as you're doing your run. It's that kind of roguelike.
Yeah.
You're unlocking the potential for something to show up in your run, but because you get to pick and choose, I can just pick like the Castlevania stuff, right? The Castlevania skins and the Castlevania weapons and sub weapons and range weapons and stuff. So I'm still getting like a healthy amount of Castlevania stuff, even though really I'm just playing Dead Cells. Like right now, yeah, I'm using the Maria skin, so I just look like fucking Maria from, Symphony of the Night.
Zero Skies in
Dracula.
chat is asking if this is a standalone or if it's you do stuff in the main game. But everything you've just
No,
described
no, it's
sounds
not.
like you're
It's not
playing the main
standalone.
game.
Yeah, he's just delayed. It's fine. But yeah, so you're playing Dead Cells, and once I get through like the areas, the first couple areas, and I beat Death, I still haven't fought Dracula yet because you got to do a lot more. Um, but yeah, then you're just going into like regular Dead Cell areas, and then the game's getting really fucking hard. I'm getting my ass kicked, and it's cool. But the thing is, Dead Cells is fun to play. It's fast, it's furious, but I'm still a little, so like when you're going to shops and stuff, it's like the shopkeeper from Symphony of the Night, right? And between areas, you normally go to the collector to like do all your upgrades, but it's Shinoa from Order of Ecclesia, and you get all that music, right? Like you get a remix of the shop theme from Symphony of the Night and stuff. You're getting so much Castlevania music. It's cool. As far as like Dead Cells as a game, it's fun to play, but I still like the arc as of like power growth as you play a run has never been very exciting. Like most of the upgrades you're picking between like a percentage increase to your physical damage or your range damage or your health pickups or something, and it's like I've never been fond of those choices. Like I feel like you need to get like fucking crazy in a roguelike, or it just has to be like a really satisfying arc, even if it's not getting crazy, kind of like a Hades or whatever, right? Like you feel like you're getting really powerful, but here it just feels like, well, I guess I'm doing more damage, or I got this modifier on this weapon, but I still feel like I'm doing the same thing. So in terms of a roguelike, I'm not like in love with it, but it's fun to like run around and hit things, and there's a lot of Castlevania to it. So
I have been
I'm
pretty
enjoying it.
surprised by like seeing people like the banter on Twitter and whatnot, and seeing some of the reviews for this Castlevania DLC, and people are like very positive about it. I was
but that's because people like Dead Cells. Like Dead Cells is a very successful, highly rated game, so I'm not surprised by the response to that. And it's got a ton of DLC. I mean, there's like a ton of like skins from like other indie games and stuff and weapons.
This was
and
one
shit.
of those games I intended to go back to because I played it a little bit when it was in early access, and then I never went back to it when it hit 1.0.
It's just cool. I mean, Dead Cells is really cool and it's fun to play. It's just not, scratching like the roguelite itch for me so much as like this is a good turn my brain off game with good tunes now, right? I guess the music was good before, but hey.
But it wasn't Castlevania good.
Yeah, it's true. It wasn't.
Alrighty. Cool. Well, that's gonna do it for impressions this week. I don't need to talk about Atomic Heart. I was gonna just briefly mention that I finished it. I took a nice, unexpected 30-hour detour with Atomic Heart and absolutely loved it. But if you want to hear more about my thoughts on that, I would say go back and listen to the talk from last week. I don't think my opinions changed too much from last week.
Did the story take a turn for the better?
I don't think the story. I mean, the story I think stays pretty on. It's on a path, and it doesn't really deviate from that path very much in terms of like expectations. If you really are one of those people who truly cannot get over like the main character being a dork and like having silly dialogue, I think honestly it just adds personality to a game that would otherwise would maybe be taking itself too seriously, and as a result it feels like it has more personality. I like it. I was not bothered by it. I mean, there was a few times where he said something that made me roll my eyes, but like, come on, it's video games we're talking about here. So many games have characters that make you roll your eyes. It's like 80% of the games out there we play are like this. So I feel like it's being blown out of proportion a bit here.
I mean, come on, you got to respect that. That's really rubbing people the wrong way. I mean, it's different vibes for different people, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are obsessing over this crispy critters thing because like the main character says like that's just he's like, oh, crispy critters. That there's an actual story reason for that comes into play at the very end. In fact, the thing I was surprised about the most, because I've been saying this, I was always like, this looks like it's going to scratch this like BioShock itch that I've been lacking for so long. And in the end, that game borrows way more from BioShock than I ever would have thought was accurate. Like to the point, there's a fucking lighthouse in it. Like it is.
Did you fuck the lighthouse?
What do you mean there's a
I know a
lighthouse? There just
fridge
happens-
tries to fuck you.
Wait. Lots of games have lighthouses.
I know, but like you are like when you get towards the end of the game, you are like going to a
like
lighthouse.
A central story point.
Yeah, it's like a major point. Like the last stretch of that game is you're going to the lighthouse to meet someone, and it's. I mean, I know it's not the same context, but like the as soon as I see it on the horizon, the first thing that popped into my head was there's always a lighthouse, and I was like,
I guess the real question is if Atomic Heart 2 also has like a lighthouse as a focal point.
I don't know, but like this definitely seems like
nerdy.
This definitely, it seems like set up for a sequel. I don't know. There are a lot of parallels to BioShock, and I've said it before. BioShock is one of those games, one of those experiences that I cherish and I love, but they don't really make a lot of. This is the kind of first-person shooter I like, and I don't play a ton of first-person shooters these days. But in the end, I was like, this gave me kind of the same vibe and the same kind of like feelings of excitement that I had the first time I played Far Cry 3, the first time I played Half-Life 2, like the first time I played BioShock. Like there's just not a ton of shooters like this these days, and this one was right in there with those other games that I love and cherish. So I ended up being very happy with it.
Has it affected your opinions on the war at all?
Nope, that's still pretty fucked up. I don't know what to tell you. Thanks, Crispy.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything.
Again, I will say this because I mentioned it last week, and thank you. Shout out to Haste in Discord for calling me out because I forgot to put it in the show notes last week after I said I was going to, but I went and corrected that. Mick Gordon, who did a lot of the music, who did the soundtrack for like Doom and whatnot. He's involved with the soundtrack for Atomic Heart. He donated all the proceeds from his contributions to the soundtrack for this game to the Australian Red Cross, specifically the fund that is going to support Ukraine. And he's encouraging people to go and make donations there. So there's a link in the show notes from last week. I will try to remember to do it in the show notes for this week as well. If you want to help out, that's a great way of doing it.
Speaking of him, I don't know if y'all follow him on Twitter, but he seems like he's starting to tease a new project.
Well, I'm sure probably
but he's never done it. He's never done anything like this.
Like what? Like Atomic Heart?
No. What he's putting out tweets every week or so in which he shows a clip of something, and it's either a clip of an existing track he's done for another game, or it's of something completely unrelated. Like his tweet from like 2 days ago is coverage of some music from the second Pot Labor movie. Like it's weird, but
Second
I'm like,
what?
It gets me excited.
Second what?
Pot Labor? You never heard of it?
No clue.
It's an anime series from the late 80s, early 90s. The idea is that it's police with mechs.
Okay.
It's
That's all you have
cool.
to say.
Police
That's all
with
you
mechs.
have to say. Well, we'll see. That dude, like I said, that dude's busy. He's got a lot of stuff going on. Anyways, we need to wrap up with the 4-player minute. So let's go ahead and do that. Brad, are you ready to start us off with your final thoughts for the week?
I'm not actually.
You're not ready?
Go before me. No.
Well, Crispy just walked away, so I'm going to let Chris Davis go first.
Wow.
Now Crispy's back. You're not ready either?
I mean, I
wow.
can go.
Y'all really pull it. See, y'all pull this shit out of your ass.
What, we doing a 4-player minute?
Yeah.
All right, I got one for you. My roommate and I started playing Diablo 3 again because they just started their final season, 28. Well, I mean final season. They're still gonna keep doing seasons after Diablo 4 comes out. But
Are you playing on your brand new computer?
No, I'm playing on PlayStation because my roommate doesn't have a computer, and Diablo is not cross-compatible between console and computers. That's kind of weird.
which sucks.
But Season 28 is the last season that they're doing before Diablo 4 comes out. So they're getting fucking crazy with it. They're doing some wild fucking shit. They've added this new thing called the Altar of Rights, which has all these like you make these sacrifices. It has all these different like levels to it, and it's basically like a sphere grid, and each sphere gives you like passive bonuses. The second level, like the second one, I've already hit it. I did the first one, it was like, a few crafting parts. And then the second one's like a few crafting parts and a fucking diamond. I did that level, and already it's giving me shit like no items in the game have level requirements anymore. So like your little like you can start a character, make level 70 gear for it immediately, and power level it in like 10 minutes. Like it's fucking
What?
crazy. There's all kinds of weird, crazy shit going on. The end game of the altar is like these special potions now that do all kinds of like really wild stuff. I mean, like Diablo has gotten really crazy with what it does in its seasonal content. Last season was really cool too. They were doing these they added a new item to farm in the game called angelic crucibles, which added passive bonuses to certain weapons and items based on what class you were, that like also completely changed the way the game was played. Like it's just wild. It's really fun to see them be like, okay, we're probably going to stop actively supporting Diablo 3 pretty soon, so why don't we just like get fucking weird with it. And honestly, like I don't know, man. Like Gonzo Dude says, Y3 is kind of butt, And so I talk about Diablo 3, and it's like I don't think a lot of people have played it in a long time. It's wild now. Like it's kind of crazy. And there are like some of the fundamental problems that existed with it are still there. Some of the fundamental things that make it different from Diablo 2 still there. Some of the stuff that they're bringing back in 4 that people are really excited about.
Are you
Obviously
gonna
aren't in
play
the
the
gameplay.
4?
But dude,
You gonna play the 4 beta?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
gonna go pick up a
I,
double down?
I don't know. No. Okay, no, I'm not gonna do that. All right, because they're doing 2 weekends, right? And they're saying like, oh, pre-order or go buy a fucking KFC sandwich to get in the beta, but the next weekend is free open beta anyway. So I don't know. Everyone I would be playing with though is working during South by Southwest, so I'm probably gonna skip that first week anyway. No need to pre-order, and then play the following weekend.
Hey,
And
shit,
I
South
gotta
by
tell
is
you,
coming up, isn't it?
I'm
Damn.
crazy excited. They've been putting out new like looks and content about it lately. They went more in depth to like the different to the item systems and like how different class abilities are gonna work now, like the different unique class mechanics. Like it looks so fucking sick. It looks so cool. I can't
What does it
fucking
look like
Man.
to
wait.
you? Like a 92? What's it look?
I mean, like
89?
I feel a 96 in my heart right now.
What?
96.
I feel a
No,
96
Damn.
in my heart right now.
Damn, I
I
just
feel
let that
it.
out.
way.
I
I
just
feel
was
it.
way too loud with my reaction. That just came out of my gut.
I
Just like,
feel a
Uh,
96, which I mean would be amazing because that'd be what 32 points or something on a single game.
Not gonna happen. You would need to be a Rockstar game,
96,
maybe.
96. Here we go to the moon.
Yeah.
We're
So,
doing it.
Brad, on that note, I've got a question for you. You said you did your research and looked at all the games that scored above 80 last year. He had 150 results. How many of those were above
181.
90?
Very few. What's your point?
I'm
just wants
just
to-
curious.
I'm curious too, actually. How many 90s did we get in 2022?
Yeah.
No, very few. I mean, if you're not counting like ports or remasters or like stuff that doesn't really technically count, like it's very few. I'd say there's like, maybe on a good year like a dozen over 90. But 181 over 80 is my point.
Dude, if
I'm
there's
saying
only gonna be
there's
a
no
dozen
shortage
games,
of safe games to fill out a roster is what I was
if
getting
there's
at.
only going to be a dozen games this year that score over 90, I feel very, very, very confident that Diablo 4 will be one of them.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
it
of
looks
the
sick.
games that were drafted, I think
It looks sick.
of the games that were drafted, I think all of the games from like the first round have the potential for that for sure, like 100%. I mean, Resident Evil 4 remake's gonna score. I guess this is my final thought, right?
Yeah, do it, Brad. This is your final thought. Go, roll right into it.
My final thought can't be just fantasy critic shit. Come on, that's not. But I have been thinking about it. I guess my final thought was kind of going to be about like the year we've had so far. I really kind of laid it out. The games I've started, the games I'm interested in, the games that have released now. I could probably fill the whole year with stuff that's already come out this year. That's how crazy it is. It's been really crazy. And a lot of them have been very like Brad games. And I have not had the time to keep up with it. I had to stop playing the Dead Space remake, even though I was enjoying it. Theater Rhythm, I haven't touched in a minute. Even though I was really enjoying it. You know, I'm on this podcast. I still have not played Wild Hearts, but that is a Monster Hunter game I am interested in. I've just not had time to get to it, right? Like, because I'm playing shit like Yakuza still and like Wolong, and I'm not. Those are big games, and I'm not getting far enough. Damn it! And it's frustrating. I still haven't finished Fire Emblem, but you know what I started the other day since by the way, demos where you can carry over progress is like the best thing in the world. They just announced the Bayonetta Origins has a demo you can download where progress carries over. If you're interested in it, play it because you can keep playing after you're done. It's cool. Maybe I'll talk about that next week. Maybe I'll talk about that next
That'd
week.
be good.
But yeah, I'm just saying, like this year has too much. I can't keep up, and I feel like I'm already like getting behind, and that sucks because March just started. But I'm impressed. I think the reason our fantasy critic is going so well for a lot of us is because games are coming out and like they're good. They're good. People like these games and like as they should because they're cool.
Dude, two of my favorite games of the year so far were both released on Game Pass too. Like it's wild. Well, such a crazy year.
Whatever. Yeah, I get it. But Wolong's on Game Pass as well. But the PC stuff. Oh, you know what? I was actually gonna kind of make that a final thought. Is like it's really frustrating to see stuff like Wild Hearts, to see stuff like Wolong launching day and date on PC with really troubled PC ports. And I kind of feel like it's great that we're seeing a lot more day and date PC ports, especially for Japanese games where you didn't typically see that before. But when they're launching in this sort of state, it really puts like a bad taste in people's mouth for otherwise cool games that people like, but like no one on PC is happy, especially with like Game Pass, where a lot of people play their Game Pass is PC. And it's like, after hearing what I heard about like Wolong, I didn't even bother to download it on PC. I was like, I'll just rent it and get the PS5 version because it sounds like it's a nightmare, which is a real bummer because you saw a lot of success with like the Souls games on PC and even more niche stuff like kind of got a second life on PC, like Dragon's Dogma, like Valkyria Chronicles, and it's really sad. But those came a lot later, where they had time to like work on them, and this is just it's bad. Like Wolong, I think is mostly negative on Steam, as far as like user scores, which is like, oh, what the fuck. Oof. So yeah, you want to see it, but man, they got to put a little more work into getting those PC versions running well because that's. I think that's just a huge bummer for a lot of.
It's actually mixed.
All things considered, like I'm shocked that something like Atomic Heart turned out to be like a pretty stable, solid release on PC at launch when other games like Wild Hearts and Wolong.
No, but see, that's not surprising because games developed in that part of the world are developed PC first. So you're not going to have that sort of situation.
I guess that's true. I have no idea how that game even performs on console.
Usually the opposite.
Yeah.
When it comes to games from that part of the world.
Right,
the RRPGs or the
What is up with your camera this week, Brad? Why are you completely blurred out most of the show?
Fucking because it's
you need to turn your autofocus. You need to turn your autofocus off.
Honestly, don't know how.
Oh, well, I'm sure a Google search would help. All right, Chris Davis.
No, it doesn't.
Whatever. I'm splitting my final thought into two parts. First off, so we had the Capcom Direct today, but I'll get that in a second. But before that, we had another Direct happen, which got a lot less press, but kind of interests me. Nacon did their press event, which they were showing off about a dozen games. And I mean, a lot of them. I saw like an open world Hades like called Ravenwood, I believe it was called. I saw a kind of enhanced fantasy aspect version of a Robin Hood game called Gangs of Sherwood that looked like a co-op-ish light Soulsian. I don't know. You gotta see it. It's weird. That kind of looks interesting. What grabbed me was not the Gollum game, because that was just a story trailer that showed you nothing. Was what they ended with, which was Teon's next project, which is their RoboCop Rogue City game.
Oh, fun.
They showed gameplay of it. Teon were the developers behind Terminator Resistance, a game that...
No, I mean, I got that, but you just said their name like someone should know what you're talking about.
Well, I mean,
But
I
go
think
ahead.
people should, because I think that's a hidden gem of its release here. Because
Sure, it's just not a household name, is what he's saying. But
Yeah.
okay.
That's what I'm
it
getting
absolutely
at, but-
should. I think it should be. It is a very brief demo that they show off of RoboCop, but it is very authentic. Has that exact same sound design as those original films. And they even got what's his name? Peter, what the actor for
Weller?
RoboCop. They got him
Yeah.
to play the character.
How old is Peter?
He's in his 70s. So like
I just know him as a Dexter victim, and that was like 10 years ago.
yeah. But dude, it is a short video. It's like only 2 minutes, but it's coming out in September, and I'm actually pretty hyped for it. Like
All right.
the thing
You
with the
gonna bid on
Teon
it?
game is that you can't expect it to get above like an 85. Because-
85.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
mean that is pie in the sky hopeful for them. So I'm not going to
Please
put
don't.
money on it in the Fantasy Critic,
Please.
but I
please
am
don't.
excited to play this over a good number of other games that are coming out in that latter half.
Brad was all blurred out, but I could see that eye roll through the blur.
Oh yeah, no, I felt it, and I wasn't even
Yeah.
looking at the OBS window. My other half of my 4-player minute goes to the other game that is big today that we chose not to talk about, and y'all
we're not going to.
cowardly chose not to.
What? Is that?
Capcom, it was leaked earlier today, but Capcom shadow dropped their demo for Resident Evil 4. And I played that right after it came out a couple hours before the feed, before we broadcasted tonight. This is awesome. Y'all are so fucked. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
It is so good. It is a recreate.
Are you
I'm not going to go
are
into
you
a whole lot of
saying
details.
He's saying we're fucked on the Fantasy Critic, is what he's
Yeah,
saying.
y'all are so
You're saying
fucked with
we're
the Fantasy Critic.
Wait, no. You're saying
doesn't-
I played this demo, and this remake of Resident Evil 4, one of the highest rated games of all time, might get some points. Look, we get it. It would have been my second pick after Zelda. Probably would have been everybody's second pick except for Nick for some reason. But like, of course it's going to score well. Nothing about the demo is telling me it's going to score well. It was always going to score well. It was a good pickup.
The demo is basically a recreation of that original GameCube demo from like 2004.
Wait, what's that
And
mean?
be-
The Village demo?
It's the village.
it's the Village demo, but it's the exact same scenario played out with that new gameplay, with that new level geometry, with those new systems integrated, and it's so fucking cool. And the stealth in this game, there's fucking stealth in this game. And you know how I'm a stealth nut, but it works in this, and it's cool, and it builds the tension so much more. Like half of me going into the village itself was chat just watching me kind of sneak around and go into buildings and find shit and avoid enemies and get out of line of sight. It was so cool. And there's extra content with this demo. First off, Capcom has learned their lesson with these Resident Evil demos. They're no longer timed. You can play it as much as you want. Now, I wouldn't put it past them to
Shocking.
like immediately delete the demo as soon as the game comes out. But you can play it as much as you want now and experience all you
I
want.
don't think that would ever happen, because that's how you sell copies of the game.
It's Capcom. The fact that they put an hour-long time limit on the Resident Evil 2 demo was bullshit in of itself. So I expect them to
that's
do some
true.
bullshit here.
That's true.
There is hidden content in this demo, in which I don't understand the unlock conditions for it, but If you do it, there's a random percent chance that you will unlock a mode called Mad Chainsaw Mode. I have no idea what that is, but as soon as this podcast is over, I want to go immediately load up that demo again to try to unlock it and figure out what the fuck that is. But everyone is freaking out about this demo, and rightly so. It is so fucking good.
Well, I'm glad you're happy. I'm not going to play this demo because I don't need to. That's where I'm coming from. I already know, I know it's going to be good. It's Resident Evil 4, and I already know, content wise what the game is. I don't need to spoil any more of that experience for myself prior to the release. So I'm just waiting until the final drop.
You already spoiled it, Nick. You played the game.
Exactly. I spoiled it for myself. All right. Let me get my 4-player minute out before Brad has to take off.
Go ahead.
Quick two-parter. One, Atomic Heart. I talked it up quite a bit. I do want to point out, because I mentioned this in Discord, ran into two very frustrating, I don't want to call them game breaking, but they were kind of game breaking, not in the sense that I couldn't finish the game, but I hit a bug. I triggered a bug that essentially prevented me from accessing the last test chamber or portal chamber kind of test area thing, which is where you get your gun upgrades. So and craft and blueprints and whatnot for weapons. So I was essentially locked out of getting the most powerful weapon in the game. And then on top of that, I triggered some weird bug accidentally that the one piece, there's one material that you get from every boss encounter that you go through, and you need that piece to get your final upgrade for all of your weapons. And somehow I triggered a bug that happened to quite a few people, that when you're sucking all of the pieces out of these enemies when you're done, that final piece that you need to upgrade your weapon freezes in midair and you can't collect it. So fucking annoying. But I managed to, against all odds, get past both of these issues. One, by finding through the magic of platforming and just finding a random angle that allowed me to jump over a fence into an area that I couldn't otherwise access. I managed to get the last piece that I needed. And then two,
it's the power of Eurojank, dude.
The power of Eurojank.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then two, I found someone who had an idea somewhere on a message board somewhere who had a fantastic idea, and it worked, which was to literally go into open a specific JSON file and edit one thing that made all of those pieces that I need to upgrade your final weapon, or to do the final upgrade on all your weapons, to the requirement to be 0. So I no longer needed those pieces to get them. So I was like,
so you cheated.
Boom.
You cheated.
I cheated.
You didn't learn. You didn't grow.
I cheated. But let me just tell you, the game is obviously not without issues. But I didn't hit any of those.
Did you even finish it? That's the
Shut
question.
up.
I mean, I don't think he did.
Did you even play Atomic Heart? I mean,
Shut up.
Did you even play?
Right?
You played some weird hacked version.
Yeah.
Dude, the
Fucking
funny
memory
thing is,
leak is what happened.
the funny thing is that first one I mentioned that I locked myself out of that test chamber. It involved bringing down the zone I was in, its security system, which temporarily, quote unquote, disables all of the enemies in that zone, but it got stuck. So I'm running around this entire zone and all of the enemies are just disabled. So there's no one shooting at me, no one coming for me. I was like, what the fuck have I done?
Oh my god.
So there's that.
Call yourself a gamer.
The other part of my 4-player minute, this is not video game related, but I just wanted to say I'm very, very excited. Scream 6.
I know.
Going to see Scream 6 tomorrow. I just want to say this franchise means so much to me. I have memories of this franchise going all the way back to 1996, and it's crazy to me that I'm sitting here in 2023 getting excited about a new Scream movie, and oh my god, I'm over the moon. I was actually supposed to go see it tonight. We ended up having to push it back. So I just want to say I'm fucking happy. I can't believe we're having this resurgence of this franchise so many years later.
Are you a little worried though? Because everyone was so hyped when Halloween came back, but then they made 2 more, and people were like, "Why did you do this?"
No, I mean I liked the last one they made quite a bit.
I'm saying it's pretty quick though after that last one.
Yeah, but I mean they filmed these movies, all of these movies they filmed in a matter of 3 months. Once they have the script, they're not like logistically speaking, terribly hard films to make. So like they film it in like 3 months, and so yeah, it's been about a year since the last one.
Wow,
But
that's good.
but between Scream 4 and Scream 5, it was almost a decade. Like it's crazy. So, and then between Scream 3 and Scream 4, it was almost a decade. It's just this trajectory of this series has been fucking wild, but I still love it. It just means a lot to me. I have very fond memories. My dad took me to go see Scream 3 in theaters because I was too young to go see it by myself. And my dad doesn't watch these kinds of movies. My dad has no fucking idea what he's getting himself into. But I sat in that movie theater with my dad and watched that movie. And it's like it's just one of those memories that I have that I
It
cherish.
was
I don't know.
awkward, the scene where they stuck the wiener through that guy's head, through the ears.
Yeah,
Remember
that's
that part?
yeah. I remember that one very fondly. Anyways, yeah, I'm excited. I'm hyped. It's one of those movie going experiences that I know I don't get to happen, that don't happen very often for me. So it's like Chris Davis in Godzilla. When a new Godzilla movie comes out, he's like very excited and he goes to see it and it makes him happy. That's kind of how I feel about Scream. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
Also,
it's
I
like
played
with
more.
me and a good Kelly Reichardt movie. But
Sure,
whatever.
fair enough.
I
There
gotta
you
go. Guys.
Everybody should have one. Anyways, that's our show tonight, guys. Brad, don't close out yet because I'm recording. I don't know what happens if you close out. I'll finish this up really quickly.
Oh, I did.
Thank
last
you.
time.
Oh,
I see.
you did?
No, you didn't.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, if you're not in our Discord, join us at discord.gg/4player. You can also find all of our podcasts on 4playernetwork.com. Let us know what you think of the new format, the new segments, all that good stuff. If you also, again, like I said at the beginning of the show, if you haven't yet, please just take a second out of your day to go leave us a review or, on Apple or even just giving us rating us stars or whatever on Spotify or whatever the fuck they do. Wherever you listen to podcasts, if you can review us, please do. We'd really appreciate it.
It helps the algorithm find people.
It helps the algorithm find people, i.e. us. So
we're emotionally needy.
We're emotionally needy. So again, thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next week. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.